Or even just like, dude, it cracks me up. Like, to see this huge billionaire, the richest man on earth. He posts a picture of Bill Gates looking fat as shit because Bill Gates fucking nagged him. And he says, if you want to lose a boner fast, look at this. I'm just like, dude, this guy doesn't give a f***. And that is who I want running Twitter.
What's cooking, everybody? I am joined in the bunker today by my friend Famous Dill. And if you didn't hear episode 56 when he was in here, Dill is the guy who sings the Jordan Belfort song. If you don't know that song, that's the one that goes, I be getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort. You know that song. You've heard it. It's it. Anyway, we recorded this episode about 2.5 weeks ago because I had it on the calendar for months. So that's my bad. So it was right before that Terra crash happened, hence why that will not be mentioned in here. I just want to make a note of that. Other than that, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope you guys will as well. If you're on YouTube right now, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that like button, and as always, would love to hear from you down in the comment section below. To everyone who is listening on Apple or Spotify, thank you for checking out the show over there. If you wouldn't mind leaving a 5-star review on either one of those platforms, and of course following if you haven't already, that goes a long way and would be very much appreciated. That said, you know what it is. I'm Julian Dorey, and this is TRENDIFIER. Let's go!
This is one of the great questions in our culture. Where is the nuance?
You're giving opinions and calling them facts. You feel me?
Everyone understands this, but few seem to do it. If you don't like the status quo,
start asking questions. Really, it's the late nights more than anything. It's like the best stuff for the clips happens at like, call it 2, 3 a.m. So it's like I start pull that mic in a little bit if you don't mind. I start like grinding probably like good stuff where the phone starts going quieter and people aren't calling at like 10, and then next thing I know it'll be like 4:30. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I feel you, man. I like to work like in the morning.
You're a morning guy?
Yeah, I'm
with
definitely
music?
more of a morning guy. Well, music is tough because, I live in an apartment, so I don't want to wake everyone up. And I already know I'm loud. So, like, I don't want to push it too much.
What's, as far as, like, where you're recording these days, do you do a lot of it just at your place, or are you hitting the studio still?
Yeah, I record most of my stuff at my place. I have a pretty good setup, but I go to the studio from time to time. But actually, most of my recorded music I've recorded myself. So going to the studio would be something different.
Right, and that's also, there's like time and money with all that too. But
yeah,
because I've been looking at a lot of like, when you see some of the videos of behind the scenes and stuff, it seems like maybe the pandemic brought a lot of this forward, but so many big artists, they just have a setup that's pretty simple because the whole, I forget what it's called, but not the shock thing. I forget the terms, I'll fuck it up, but like, they can basically record now in open spaces and make it sound like it's a closed recording environment.
Yeah, I mean, at least for my recording history, I've never really understood why. Like, you don't need a padded, closed recording booth. Like, that might be good to get a real nice, clean sound, but I've always just recorded in an open room into a mic. We get like a reflection filter that goes around like this, and a pop filter in front.
Pop filter, yeah.
And then that's all. I mean, for me, that gets a nice, clean sound. But then there's people who are perfectionists, and like, it's at a certain level of funding or a certain level of, connections. It's like, why not? But for me, I'm just trying to make it, connect all the dots and make it work. So I record at home. I mix and master my own stuff, really out of necessity. Right, because I don't have the funding or the support of like a label or something like that. And, in many ways, I haven't really even had that many people to work with until recently. So, but I guess as it scales up, I'll probably do more like studio recording and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Because you were working at Mace's place a little bit, right?
With Mason?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been working at Breed a bit. I mean, we made some cool stuff over there, but as of now, I haven't recorded anything for like my personal albums over there. So I definitely like to go to a studio environment to like collab and stuff like that. But on some level, I don't want to pay out of pocket to go to studio sessions when I can record and mix and master myself. You know, like that is that's a bunch of skills that I've learned over the years, to where it's like that is part of my value add to the process. It's like I can put out music that I record and mix and master myself, so it doesn't cost me that much. But I still have to pay for beats because I don't produce yet. I still have to pay people in the artwork, beats, and all those parts of the process. So there's still that part to it, you know? So it's like you got to decide like what you're going to spend your money on, you know?
Yeah, there's so many bits and pieces into like creative work, and I'm just thinking from outside and like music that people don't think about that is basic for a product to get out and be pretty good, but it's a lot. And like I admire the fact that you've been doing, I mean, soup to nuts in a lot of ways, like everything on your end. And the big thing was, you know, you were in here like a year ago, and I don't know how much we talked about it on camera, maybe a little bit, but especially off camera when we were having a conversation, you were pounding the table on how people were not talking about like NFTs in the sense of music and what they could do for like freedom within music. And I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. I hadn't looked at it at all in that sense at that point. And I just been watching you. And this is your life. This is what you've been doing. You've been like kind of leading the way in that entire space. And I'm very curious why a lot of artists still have yet to follow suit, because you've had a pretty good case study so far.
Yeah, I mean, I would say from then to now, we've seen a complete shift where now I would say NFTs are on most artists' radar, whether they're a traditional artist or a music artist. I think most artists are starting to look at NFTs now. There's still
in music?
I would say, that most artists kind of have an idea that, okay, there's a thing called an NFT. But you got to understand that that's coming a long way from, you know, last time I was in here, I would say most music artists had no idea what an NFT is. Right. And there was no hints that NFT was going to be big for music. But now you got Snoop Dogg, you know, doing music NFTs.
Is he doing music NFTs, or is he doing like a drop like of art? I haven't looked.
Yeah, he did a music NFT drop. So he did a whole music NFT album, which was cool. You got big artists like him coming into the space doing stuff. You got other big artists starting to come in. So I think some of the OGs are starting to understand it, and the music industry is definitely taking it seriously now. But yeah, I mean, I've been a great case study for that. I've been one of the highest selling independent artists in all of Web3 and music NFTs. Damn. So that has been amazing for me, especially it's just me. Like, you know, I don't have a team. I don't have a label. I just have me and my business. So it's been amazing to build a community where I have over 1,000 collectors that are supporting me. And I've made more selling my NFTs in the last year than I got paid from the record label from a multi-platinum hit spread out over 7 years. So It's crazy. It's actually game changing. So like, plus with that hit, the reason I got paid so little is because
we're talking about Jordan Belfort for people that don't know.
Right. So with that, the reason that I got paid so little is because I gave up all my ownership. So not only have I sold as much NFTs this year as the entire payment that I've gotten from that song, but I still own 100%. So realistically, I'm going to get those royalties for the long term because I still own that music. So it's completely game changing, right? And it basically, it not only takes the label out of the situation, but it means the artist doesn't have to give up all of their ownership too.
Well, that's the thing that is such a no-brainer to me. And what I'm not really sure about is what the label attitude has been behind the scenes, because when I first looked at this concept, and again, it's got to develop, so I got to see how it actually works and whether or not fans are able to finance everything like through an NFT. But when I look at it in theory, I'm like, well, if you could just basically like raise money from the people who fuck with you, why do you need a label?
Right. I mean, that's exactly what it's going for. And like the labels are always going to have their connections. You know, they're always going to have the benefits and the advantages they have. So, you know, there's still some benefit to working with a label, but it's like now I can basically sell to the people who want to support me, who want to be a part of my journey, and they get rewarded when I win instead of the label, right? So, you know, I've done 6 figures of music NFT sales, and so far that's created almost $1 million in market cap for my community. And so that would have never been possible in Web 2 in the traditional world. I mean,
What do you mean $1 million market cap for your community?
so that's the market cap of all my NFTs, right? So the people that have bought into my NFTs, like most of them are doing really well in
Right,
terms
'cause
of
they're
the
holders.
appreciation and the price of their NFT, right? So basically, now my album has this $1 million NFT market cap that never would have been possible in the traditional industry. I mean, perhaps I could convince a label that my album is worth $1 million because of like potential and, you know, the long-term idea of a crypto album, but that would be a hard sell, right? Because labels are going to say, all right, well, you know, we only care about streams or we only care about TikTok or something like this. But the NFT community and my community that I've built sees the value of that, right? So this album that's made probably $10,000 from streaming has $1 million market cap in Web3 and NFTs because those people can understand what I'm building and understand the value of what I've connected my NFTs to. So it's really cool because it basically allows you to tap into that future value that the label has for so long protected and guarded because that's their business model, right? Their business model is to take advantage of the cash, the fact that they have all the cash and the artist is in a rush, right?
What was your deal again, by the way? Like when you signed over the rights to Jordan Belfort, there's the publishing and then
Yeah,
I'm blanking out right now. There's publishing and then masters. Right. Yeah. So what was your percentage cut on that?
So we sold 82%. So we were left with 18% split between me and Wes Walker.
Of the masters or the publishing?
Of the masters. So the publishing was 50% us, 50% Phil Collins because the beat sampled a Genesis song.
Which was also kind of bullshit. Like you couldn't even really tell.
Yeah, but I mean that's debatable. Some people really do know it, and so that's up in the air, but that's okay. That's really not a big deal because the publishing there. We're talking about less than 10% of the total revenue. The real problem is that the record label paid us an advance of $30,000, which in hindsight is really nothing compared to not only what this record made, but what they purchased. Because for that $30,000, they purchased this music video. Jordan Belfort music video that looks like it has maybe, I don't know, $100,000-$200,000 budget on that video. I mean, the video is incredible, right? So now that I think back on it, I realized that they just looked at it like, okay, we'll give them this, you know, loan. We can call it a loan at best. And at the end of the day, they probably just felt like they were paying for the music video.
When did this happen in the context of the song? Like
this was right after we had shot the music video. So it was like before we had given the music video some time on YouTube to just take the natural course, but like right in that early stage. And so this was probably 2015, 2016. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, basically what it comes down to is they don't pay you. They give you a loan. And what I always say is this, the music industry deals are worse than the worst loan you would see Kevin on Shark Tank give. Seriously, imagine if Kevin on Shark Tank said, I want to give you a $30,000 loan and I get 100% royalty until it's paid back.
Yeah.
Like that, if you heard this on Shark Tank, it would sound ridiculous because no one ever does it. I mean, Shark Tank, like, you know, one of those shark deals, it's like, I'll give you $100,000 with a 10% royalty till I get paid back, right? The music industry is, I'll give you $30,000 and I get 100% royalty until it's all paid back. And then after that, you only get 18%. I mean, it is
that's the crazy
backwards, completely backwards.
So they give you a $30,000. I'm just like thinking on the timeline of it though. This is right when the song was blowing up. So you were making money on the song.
We were selling thousands a week independently, but still like 30,000 looked like a lot when you're making like a couple thousand a week or something. But we didn't understand the long-term vision because like we were young. And now that I look back, yeah, we were 18, 19 at the time. And now that I look back, I'm like, wow, the music video alone we could have charged them $30,000 cash for the music video. I mean, the music video should have been a payment of $30,000 just for them to own that. So, I mean, looking back and understanding a lot more about the industry, I feel like that the label saw a very good opportunity to get one over on us, and we didn't know any better.
But they also didn't. The thing that pissed me off about your situation, and this does happen, is that they didn't. It seems like they didn't have any type of plan. They just wanted to be able to say, it's almost like they were trying to get a participation trophy, like, okay, we got this song on the books. Remember that Jordan Belfort song? That was us. That was our guy. And then boom.
Yeah, I mean, that's their game plan, right, in a lot of ways. So I think they just try to find these opportunities. But the biggest problem is that they wouldn't reinvest in us, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And so for me, it's like I was trying to send them songs. I was trying to get some other work done, but they were only focused on this one follow-up single. And then once we got that done, it was like they ghosted us, right? And not only that, but like the follow-up single had to be like so the way they wanted it. And there was so much focus on making like this one follow-up single to Jordan Belfort.
Which single was that again?
This song Haters, which is a fine song. In my opinion, it's kind of inconsequential. Like I have another song called Hey What's Up Hello that I was trying to show them for years. I ended up making my own independent music video. It's dope. I made it in Philly. Now that record has more streams than the follow-up single. That follow-up single is supposed to have a $50,000 marketing budget behind it. So you're telling me that with a $50,000 marketing budget, now we look back a few years later, and my song that I didn't put anywhere near 50,000 into, and I'm not Atlantic Records, right? Shouldn't 50,000 from Atlantic Records be like 100,000 of what an independent artist could possibly do? But I've spent, maybe a couple thousand between the music video and just my own time and energy on that song, and here we are with more streams than this, follow-up song from the label. So to me, it's just like, they never really wanted to reinvest in me. Like a better way to do it would have been if they could have, supported me to continue making music, continue releasing, and have some kind of strategy. But I mean, at the end of the day, this is the problem of working with a label, especially a big label, is that unless you are their superstar, they don't really have the time of day for you. And the other thing is like, they're not necessarily in the business of reinvesting in me as an artist who did a single song deal with them with a follow-up deal. They're very much about contracts and obligations. And, I think in some ways I may have not just fit the bill for what they were looking for. So,
well, that's the other thing. It's so like, what was that conversation like when you said the follow-up single Haters, which I know that song, and that song had a lot of potential. It did.
Yeah, it has potential.
It had a lot of, there's a couple things missing, but like the genesis of that song is actually pretty good. But like, what was that? How did that conversation come up? Did you come up with the concept of the song and then they came to you and said, okay, cut all this. We actually want the song to sound this way or whatever?
No, it was like we were coming up with songs that we liked and stuff, but the only thing that they were willing to accept is a song that came from them, that was created and influenced by someone from their team, and it had to be what they wanted. So it didn't matter what we thought was good. And if we had brought them something unique and original, that would have been no, because they wouldn't be able to say, "Oh, our people made that." So they wanted something produced by their people, like engineered by their people, like written with their team. And now that I think back, I'm like, okay, now I get it. Like every single person that was there, like took a writing credit on my song. And like, the problem with my song, Hey, What's Up Hello, is that I made, recorded, mixed, and mastered everything myself. So when you look at that song, the only way to get a label deal is if they're going to give me another advance and buy a piece of that song. And so they don't want to do that. They would rather have the money stay in the family, right? So that's what I've learned is like when you work in the industry, you start to realize that you have to do business their way, right? And what NFTs allows us to do is to go directly to the fans. So it's like, I'm going to do what's best for my fans and my supporters and my audience. And then if I do well, they get rewarded. And they get rewarded without basically, sucking my lifeblood for the rest of time. And so I think that is the revolution. And I have arrived at this point from just struggling through the music industry and trying to recover from this situation. But, it's like sometimes I speak a little too negatively, because on the positive side, it's like I got a foot in the door with the music industry.
Right.
I learned very early on how this works. I learned enough to tell me, don't take the deal. Now that I have this NFT thing going on, now that I have 100% ownership of this killer album that I'm so proud of, at least now I know, like, hey, don't sell it. hey, when the label comes calling, know your value, right? So at the same time, I do believe everything happens for a reason. Like, I'm a little spiritual like that. And so I think that what happened to me is what's now sent me down the road to like make this comeback and know what I know now and hopefully create some kind of change in the world in the way that, you know, things are done in the music industry.
And you've also kind of like expanded your horizons through it though too. It's not even just, it doesn't have to stop at music. Like, to me, from the outside, just looking at it 30,000 feet in the air, it almost feels like the focus hasn't even been on the songs you're creating. It's like you've been the guy who was pounding the table with some legitimacy, not someone who was like a totally unknown artist or anything. You've had legitimacy in the industry saying, hey guys, this is the way. And you're showing all these other people like, okay, you started with just some basic drops around your Crypto Rich album and everything. Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, let's find the fans, bring them in here, allow them to invest if they want to. They don't have to, right? So your work has to be good enough that people want to do it, and then you get them in the door. And now suddenly all the little bullshit, you know, paying for the artwork, paying for studio time if you still want to do that, stuff like that. This is now funded directly through a transparent process where fans understand that. And I think, you know, to me, looking at where some of the attitudes are with NFTs, the thing that scares me, and this isn't music NFTs, this is NFTs as a whole, because I'm a fan, obviously, like we've done podcasts on it, but the craze was so big when it started, you know, like January, February, March 2021, and then it started to mature as the industry shifted so quickly with all that, you know, Bored Apes and collections and stuff coming up. But what I find is that you have your... I think Geo gave me the number. I could fuck it up, but whatever it is, like 750,000 people, I think, in America who are involved in the communities, right? Who are all in NFTs, all about it, see it as the future. And then you also have the rest of the population. And in order to get mass adoption, you got to get the rest of the population. And the thing that scares me is that a lot of people that I go to talk to who aren't into NFTs, I say the word NFT and they look at me like I have 10 heads. Now, all technology has been like this at some point. You could have said that about the iPhone.
Yeah,
at some
I was going to say, same thing about Bitcoin. Like, I'm totally used to this idea of like being into something where when you tell it to most people, they go, "Oh, isn't that a scam?" Like, I'm used. I've been in this for a while, but
so why? So here's the question: why isn't it with this? Like, how do you explain it to like the person who has no fucking clue what they're talking about?
Yeah, well, I mean, to someone like that with music especially, I talk about like collectible vinyls. Like, you can look at Nirvana, for example, and look at the way that Nirvana released collectible vinyls. And I'm
not familiar with that. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so he'll have like a 1 of 1,000 collectible vinyl for one of his albums, or you might have like a gold version, 1 of 100, or you might have like a rare platinum one. And I don't know exactly, but you can look up Nirvana's collectible albums and you'll find a bunch of information about it. And so that's one way to look at it.
Dave Grohl doing this, or like what's the project here? Like
this is the way he released physical collectible albums like years ago. So this is nothing new for the music industry. We're just digitizing this process of having collectible music pieces. So these are vinyl collectibles that you can look up where there's different editions and they're worth something. And so some examples are like the Beatles' White Album. One of those editions, if you have a solid condition, can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's an Elvis album that's worth a lot. There's the Wu-Tang album that sold for $4 million last year. Yeah. And so just like what crypto is doing with money, you're taking, money, a currency, and making a digital version of it. We are doing the same thing with collectible items such as music, right? Think of a collectible vinyl. And so we're creating this scarce digital item that people can buy to support the artist. Now, they're not necessarily buying ownership of the record. Just like when you buy a vinyl, you're not buying ownership of that record. Now, you have the record, you can play it. It might be worth something if the artist blows up. And it might come with a merch package, right? If you buy the right collectible vinyl, maybe you'll get a collectible vinyl that comes with a merch package and a VIP ticket to your favorite show. And so Now we're getting closer to what we're creating with NFTs. Because when you buy an NFT, you're basically getting a connection to the artist. Artists can choose what they want to deliver, but most music artists are choosing to deliver stuff like a collectible vinyl album. That's something that I'm doing. Merchandise, like this shirt, for example, is something that my NFT collectors are going to get. I have merchandise line that I'm connecting to the NFTs.
I'm a large. Thanks.
Let's go. I love it. So I also connected to my music download, right? So you can, of course, download the music and, use the MP3 files if you want. But most of my collectors are still going to listen on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Now, people ask why. What did I buy with NFT? Well, here's the thing. If you own an NFT, you have a connection to the success of that music. So as soon as you own that NFT, you want to stream the artist more. You want to watch all their YouTube videos and click like, because the more people that see their content, the more that you can support them. Slowly over time, those NFTs are going to continue to sell and continue to grow their community.
So how do you push back on the people that will follow up by saying, okay, well, how's that not like a pump and dump? You're just financially incentivized to push the price up as high as possible, regardless of the quality of the work.
Yeah, well, I think that at the end of the day, like you could say that about any asset or stock, like at the end of the day. And so what it comes down to is the price doesn't go up just from hype and that, but it's from building the community. And you have to think of it like a digital real estate, right? Like, why is real estate in New York worth so much, right? I mean, when New York City first started, you could probably just go plop down somewhere on the island and set up your tent, right? Because this was a forest.
Yeah.
Okay. And so NFTs are the same way. And so as an NFT artist, what you're doing is you're saying, how big is my island? How many NFTs am I going to create for myself, my digital brand, right? And so I think people need to understand that it's a form of digital real estate. And as you build more on that digital real estate, it starts to have real appeal and use cases. Why do people go to New York now? Oh, because it's the biggest city in the United States and there's people there actively there working, building every day. And so that's what's happening in my NFT community. If you would have bought last March, you could have paid a couple $100s to get an NFT that's worth thousands of dollars now. So why is it that my collectors made, 10 times their Ethereum in the last year? Well, it's because now we have thousands of collectors that are there building every day, talking to each other, helping each other sell music NFTs, working together. So what people also don't understand about NFTs is you're not just buying a picture of my album on a trading card. That's getting you access to my community to work with other people who have similar interests and to be with them. So the way I also describe it is like, my NFT is a digital ticket to a 24/7 virtual concert. And so you can come to the concert for free and check it out. But unless you have a ticket, you're not going to be in the concert. You're not going to be able to access speaking with us and talking with us. You're not going to have your name as a collector in the community and have full access to our private chats and our private resources that we offer. So that's kind of what it's become. And then before we get too far away, like I also wanted to bring it back a little bit of like, what is an NFT? It's also very much like a trading card. Like let's say a rookie card for baseball, right? And so when you buy one of my NFTs, it's like you're buying the Dill rookie card, okay? And so I really like the comparisons of like baseball cards or something like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I've often said that what I'm doing with music NFTs is very similar to the way that Pokemon built their brand, okay? So Pokemon has always sold digital collectibles, specifically trading cards, but other types of items as well. And that's used to fund entertainment content, right? Which then increases the value of their brand worldwide. So if
like
you
TV shows and stuff like that.
Right,
Yeah.
like Pokemon TV shows, like Pokemon video games, all this, right? But when you think about what you buy with Pokemon cards, at the end of the day, you're buying this product that has some kind of specific use case within the Pokemon ecosystem. And then the Pokemon business is using that money to then fund their entertainment content. And now we're seeing that if you would have bought one of those early edition Charizard cards, you could have made, hundreds of thousands of dollars by holding this Pokemon card because it was one of the original Pokemon cards, right? So what I'm doing is I'm selling digital collectibles that have a specific use case within my ecosystem. You could think of what I'm doing as like a game. It's really not much different than a Pokemon game where if you have the right cards, you can do this and that. If you have the right Dill NFTs, you can do this and that in the Dill ecosystem. So when you buy my NFT, it has immediate value within my community and within my game. You can really think of it like a game, except the point of the game is to sell music. And so the people that are buying my NFT are getting access to my community, my ecosystem, my game, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm using that funding to create entertainment content, which is going to improve the overall value of my ecosystem as well as hopefully the cards, right? So yeah, that's what it comes down to. Is it's a lot like a sports card or even like betting, where you're making a bet on that artist and their ecosystem.
What about the other famous pushback? And I honestly, I've heard the one Lamborghini explanation before. I think that's pretty good. But like when people say, oh, well, it's digital and I can download it in 4K myself and I can own it. And
that's a good one. I like that one. I say, please do. That's free advertisement for us, because everyone that has it on their computer, well, then other people are going to see it. They're going to say, what's that?
Right.
And so anyone can have it on your computer. That's no problem. Like so the same argument comes up about like the songs themselves. They say, oh, well, I can listen for free on Spotify. Why would I want the NFT? And all of my NFT collectors would chime in and say, oh, great, please listen on Spotify, because you're going to improve the overall value of our NFTs as you help the song progress up the charts, as you help the song get more streams. You know, when that song has, 100 million streams, the NFT is going to be worth more because that song is more successful. So when people say these kind of things, I say, that's awesome. That's what we want. So you don't own anything unless you have the NFT.
Right.
So it's like anyone can listen to the music for free. And that's why I always say the music has to come first. What I think is silly, I'll say silly because we don't want to say stupid. We don't want to make anyone feel stupid. But taking your music away from streaming to put it into NFTs is
dumb.
Ass backwards,
Yes.
okay? Because the music should come first. The NFT, it's like, look, listen to the music and Web 2 on Spotify, on YouTube, because over there your listen has impact.
That in Web 2.
Yeah, that's Web 2, right? So your listen has impact over there. Now, if you listen to a song on my OpenSea, or if you listen to a song from one of the NFTs you bought, it has no impact. There's no benefit to someone listening to that song from the file or from OpenSea. But the idea is buy and collect and invest in Web3 and buy NFTs, and then listen and enjoy and support on Web 2, on the places where you can have impact on that artist's future.
Well, that's also going to translate as far as the Web3 part goes. That's also going to translate well over time, I think, because right now you're selling some sort of graphic along with the song file for that example you're giving.
Yeah.
But 5 years from now, you may be selling a hologram of you performing the song in a never before seen something, right?
Yeah,
and then suddenly someone owns that. So yeah, they can listen to the song like everyone else, but they're watching you in a hologram that only they have. Good luck putting that on the internet, although they'll probably figure out a way.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, that's in some ways that's kind of what it already is, right? Because each person owns a unique card or something like that. But ultimately, that is just a representation of their ownership in our ecosystem, right? So also, I think people stress out about like the image too much and think that it's like so important that you're buying like this one image as an NFT. When it's like, it doesn't matter what the image is. You need to look at it more like this is the digital real estate for an artist, right? So
what do you mean?
Let me explain. So
the 8 Sleep Pod Pro cover comes in queen or king sizes. It goes right on top of your current mattress, and it is the best investment you'll ever make in your sleep because it is wired directly into 8 Sleep's proprietary app, which measures your sleep stages throughout the night and makes sure that everything is optimized around you so that you get the deepest sleep possible. And in the morning, you can even see scientifically how that happened. It'll show you your tosses and turns. It'll show you your REM. It'll show you percentages that talk about like quality sleep and stuff like that. It's a beautiful thing. So if you use the link in my description, along with the code TRENDIFIER at checkout, that's TRENDIFIER, you will get $150 off your own 8 Sleep Pod Pro cover today, and you'll sleep 6 hours and feel like you slept 8. So check it out.
I like to buy NFTs that I love if I love the artwork, right? But when I buy an NFT, the first thing I'm looking at is what are all the pieces available from this artist? And of the ones that are near the lowest price, which one do I like best to purchase? Okay. And what it comes down to is that the value of an NFT is related to the value of that creator. You know, you might be able to say that there's some subjective value associated with the content of the art or the quality of the art. But at the end of the day, I think people are way too focused on thinking that like the value is this one of one like art piece on the blockchain, which I get that. But the real value is having a piece from that artist. What the content of the piece is doesn't matter. Like if I'm buying a piece of art from an artist, you know, I like the color blue. But if there's a red piece that's cheaper and it's of comparable quality and I could save, you know, 10% of the money and instead I just have to have a red piece from that artist instead of blue, then I might do that, especially if I'm just trying to support the artist and make a bet. Now, if I want that piece to go on my wall in my blue room, then okay, I might pay a little more to get the blue piece. But what people need to understand is that like, the actual image, you know, there's different ways you look at this. Sometimes you buy art because you just love the art. Sometimes you buy art because you want to support the artist and you believe in their future. And when it comes down to that, I think it's more about having this piece of digital real estate, a share of their future, a collectible item from their collection. And it's less about like the way that they have set that up. So like in my collection, for example, I have some items that are one of one, like rare one of one pieces, and I have other items that are one of 1,000. So there's 1,000 of this same item on the blockchain. But that is, it's funny because like I said about Nirvana, that is the same model that they've been doing with vinyls since the 80s or whatever. And it's funny because I created this without knowing about the vinyls in the 80s. But this just seemed like a natural thing to do.
It's the next, it's the next translation. And that's why when I first heard about this and sat down with Cole Kennelly and really discussed it in the end of 2020, it made a lot of sense to me. I knew these arguments would come up, the same ones I throw at you just so that you can bat them down. But it's like, this is where the world's going. Like, when I used to talk about marketing with people, when I was first really getting into that and trying to figure out why people make decisions to do what they do and buy what they buy, you know, I would always talk about if you're above the age of 25, in a lot of ways, your opinion has exponentially decreased in value. When you look at every market that's ever been created anywhere at any time in modern history, let's call it, right? It is always driven by the community who's coming of age, right? The generation who's in their past puberty, right? Mostly. Right. And the ones who are maybe in college, things like that. They drive culture. And so think about the kids now who are literally in college. They don't know a world without an iPhone.
Right.
Right? Like, at least until I was 8 years old or something, like, it was the whole playing outside and everything, stuff like that. And we didn't have that fully digital world. We had the early internet. These kids don't know that. So where the fuck do you think they value stuff? They value stuff in the quote-unquote metaverse, which still has a lot of development to go. Yeah. We're very early there. But, like, even look on the socials. Like, when you do posts and stuff, or posts that start to do well or look like they're going to do well when you put them out, what do people do? They comment like first, second, whatever.
Right? And I mean, think about this. Like nowadays, everybody probably has their, treasured Instagram post. Oh, this one did really well.
Right.
But how many people have their photo book in their house in their drawer anymore? I mean, some people do. I'm not saying they don't. But the point is that now we have that digital. And so that's the transition that's happening. And here's a really good point to throw this in, right? So I never collected art before 2 years ago. I didn't collect. I had some art on my wall that are cool canvases, but I got them cheap online from iCanvas.com. So that sure as hell wasn't collecting art. Now, this isn't because I don't want to collect art per se. Like if I had all the money in the world, sure, I'd have some dope ass art in my house, but still I don't really collect any real collectible art. But I have a 6-figure portfolio of digital art as NFTs. So what does this tell you? I am someone who would have never been collecting art from artists now, and now I hold pieces from hundreds of artists around the world. So something is different there, right? And this is what's huge, that people inside NFTs get and people outside NFTs don't. I don't want 100 physical art pieces. I would never hold 100 physical art pieces. What the hell would I do with them? I put 20 on my wall and then it would be full. But I'm down to support artists and their careers, especially if there is some kind of liquidity plan to it. Because when I buy a piece of art from a local artist in Philly and I go pick it up and I bring it to my apartment, I mean, maybe if he becomes the next Picasso, I sell it to the Philadelphia Art Museum. But in 99% of the cases, there's no path to liquidity. But I have bought art from a random artist on the internet who is not Picasso, and I've been able to sell that art because there is a market for it, and it's right there on everyone's phone.
Ease of access.
And the artist, as long as the artist is going in every day and trying to sell art, and I believe in them, I know they'll find that next buyer. But there is just no incentive for the artist who sold me a piece in Philly and now it's on my wall. They're never going to help me sell that piece.
And everyone has access to see their portfolio and see their history. Like, this was the big thing with Wahid from Smiles, you know.
Yeah.
And like last time you were here, you, me, and Gio hung out afterwards and we're talking, and that was like right when this whole thing was getting concepted. But like, when we saw Wahid's earliest pieces, when he did Pooh Shiesty's album cover 2 years ago, he just did the new one as well.
Yeah.
Free Pooh. But anyway, like when we were first looking at that and then saw his initial piece redoing the Young Thug and Lil Durk meme, and then eventually did like a Kanye piece and stuff, I was looking at that art going, okay, number one, this is amazing. So I believe in it 1,000%. Number two, when he's just getting better and better. He's going to keep making great shit. This original stuff is going to go for millions in years because this kid's going to the fucking moon, like as an artist with his talent and everything. So when people are looking at the development of art come out, you go and buy the piece of art off some fucking guy in Philly, you know, he could just have a kiosk right there. You wouldn't know the difference, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that dude's online, you could see everything he's ever done because it's all there in digital format, and you could see like, do I like this? Don't I? Did it get better? Didn't it? Can I judge this? Can I? You know what I mean?
And the other part is you can see all that, and you can also immediately judge whether or not you're going to be able to resell that piece. So you can decide, hey, is this something that I'm just buying and throwing my money, you know, in the air like if I bought it from a guy on the street? Or is this someone who has a digital strategy and is making a couple sales a week, and I know they're going hard. They've been here for months. And so when I buy their piece, I say, you know, I'm buying this to support the artist. Maybe I'll hang on to it for years. But if all goes well, they're selling a couple pieces a week. So, you know, if 6 months down the line, if I want to sell it, hopefully I'll be able to, you know, sell it for what I paid or even more. And that's what's happening in the NFT community right now too. And like one thing that I've done really well is I started my drops all very low price. I've had a lot of things that were actually free to claim. So collectors just came and got that NFT for free. And so my items that were free are now worth quite a lot. Like I have an item that was free to claim. You could have picked up as many as you want for free. It costed like a $20 transaction fee to get it. Very few people got multiples. And now I just had one of those sell yesterday for over $400. So anyone could have came and bought 4 of them, and they would have $4,000 of NFT value right now, and one of them just sold yesterday. So, I mean, what I've done really well is scaling up my collection. Like one thing I've noticed in this space is you can have these big hype mints that get a lot of hype, and they sell out. And a lot of them are usually like these PFP style projects, which for anyone who doesn't know, it stands for profile picture. It's a specific way of doing NFT artworks that generates a lot of images. And so they'll have a collection of thousands of these items and they sell out and they get a lot of hype. But some of the NFT community is a little bit unsustainable, I think, especially on these big hyped up projects. So what I've done well is I've scaled up along the way. You know, I didn't just say, hey, here's 5,000 items, let's sell them all out and then try to figure it out from there.
Right.
Like I have created a model that the price increases along the way. And so that's what's allowed me to do approximately a little over 6 figures of NFT sales, but have over $1 million in NFT market cap because I've created this pricing model that scales up with the community. So that's pretty unique about my collection is that I didn't have this big hyped up sellout, so it's been a lot more of a grind for me, but I have had a lot of value creation. So most of my collectors have actually profited on their NFTs, and that's something that's important to me. But I think a lot of the market right now is about like getting this hype, selling out the drop, you get a big bag of cash, and then it's like, okay, what now?
Yeah, that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. And you know, the incentives aren't necessarily correctly aligned either because now you have a team with a huge bag of cash and there's a lot of stuff they can do to reinvest, but it's also tough, and it's tough to manage personal, wants and needs, especially when you get a big bag of cash and you're in a new industry with people who, may or may not really want to focus on this project. But for me, it's like, I have integrated these NFTs with everything that I do. Even, over a year ago in March, I was saying, look, these NFTs are going to give you access to my shows, access to my merch, access to everything I'm doing in my online community. And so I think by fully integrating the NFTs with everything I do, that's built a lot of trust with my community and allowed me to slowly scale up. So it's like, maybe I haven't sold as much NFTs as the big hype project out there, but now I have 1,000 collectors who totally understand what I'm doing, and they're in it for the long run. And I mean, it's been cool. Like, I have these VIP collectors, nearly 100 of them, and those items were 0.2 Ethereum last year. And now the people who got in then have 2 Ethereum worth of NFTs. So those ones are up well over 10x, and
wow.
It's a pretty strong-handed community. So I'm excited about that stuff. I think that's been one of the cool things for me, is to know that, like, not only have I gotten funding from my fan base and I'm like promising them these, big future, but I have created a strategy to get the funding and create value along the way. Instead of just like, hey, buy all my art and one day I'll be Picasso. I've created a strategy that's like, hey, buy my art, and along the way there's value delivery the whole time.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, you talk about like the bag of cash move. I was looking at a graph the other day that shows me a trend that people are just starting to see through that, because the chart was showing for the biggest projects in NFTs, so like Bored Apes, CryptoPunks, I forget the other two, but it was showing 4 of the big ones, and what you saw was the ETH value, the market cap of them going up, and then it said all other projects market cap across NFTs, and you see everything going down overall, which means there's some success in there. But what's happening is people are realizing a lot of these projects that are coming out, which includes some prominent people just doing like a quick drop or something, they see, well, wait a second, it drops, it gets old, there's nothing else, we're fucking out of here.
It's the hype train, There's definitely the issue of the hype train. I think this is what kind of prompted something I was saying before, is that you brought this up. So like, one of the cool things about NFTs is that they're micro communities, right? So my NFT, some of them have gone up 3 to 4x in the last month, while the rest of the crypto market has been down. And so what's cool about NFTs is it's a micro community. So the reason that's happened is because I've started this music NFT radio thing. It's completely exploded my community and Twitter engagement and my NFT sales. And so
you've been killing it in the whole like networking across the space. What's going on Twitter right now?
Yeah. So anyway, like, I've had this explosion of engagement, and that's what people don't understand about NFTs, is that my micro community can explode and get a bunch of engagement and then create a lot of value through the price of my NFTs going up, independent of the price of Ethereum, independent of the Bored Ape yacht clubs, independent of any mint, right?
By driving more attention towards you.
Because I had something that happened for me personally in my community, which brought us a lot of attention. And that is so much more powerful than the price of, ETH going down can affect our project. Because
and you're out here setting world records too.
And I'm out here setting I am now a world record holder. Actually, in the last month, I now hold the world record
top 3.
Yeah, the top 3 longest Twitter spaces of all time. So I hold the world record at 77 hours on a single Twitter space. 77 hours straight.
Are you just sitting in there
I'm
hosting?
I'm just waiting for the call from Guinness Book of World Records. So give me a call. I'm here waiting for it.
What are you doing for 77 hours awake?
So no, that doesn't mean I'm awake. I could probably stay awake for 77 hours if I really had a reason to, but no, the key is this is a 24/7 radio show. So we're playing music focused on music NFTs and Web3 music. We're playing 24 hours a day radio. We're playing off a playlist that we have of artists. It's 100% community-based organic radio. So the only artists that get plays are the artists who come in, listen, support the show, and join the community. And so the other cool thing is that you're listening to an artist and then they're right there live. So you're listening to my song and then I come in and say, hey, it's Dill. You're listening to Music NFT Radio. Then you listen to another song from one of our stars, Fifi Wrong. And then you hear her song next and it's a completely different style. It's a completely different vibe because we're not genre specific. We're Web3 music NFT specific. Wow. So I make, hard rap and then Fifi comes on and it's kind of like an ambient, like chill vibe. But then you hear her come in. Hey, it's Fifi Wrong. You're listening to Music NFT Radio. Then one of our new upcoming artists, Frieza came into our room with 29 followers like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now he's almost at 1,000 and this is like a brand new artist who is just starting in Web3. And now we've helped him explode his community, and so we'll play some of his music too. He's getting in rotation, right? So we're mixing in, artists like myself, multi-platinum artists, with Frieza, who just came into the room and, is ready to battle Goku on the track. And so, it's awesome. Like, we got like all these artists that are just organically coming into the room and seeing a lot of value, and I'm able to help them while building my community. So, when I do a 77-hour space, I obviously sleep and I leave it on overnight. And this all started with me just literally sitting there with my phone like this and my laptop right here, playing music out of my laptop into the phone. And at first, I just wanted a place to play my music because I'm on Twitter Spaces like 24/7 for the last year, just trying to build my community. And it's been incredible, right? Like, Twitter Spaces is awesome. And a big part of what I do is answer questions about music NFTs, right? So I host spaces, I host Q&As, I get together with other people in the community. So I've been a leader in Twitter Spaces for a long time. And one day I was just like, I want people to hear the music. Like, I can talk about music NFTs all day. I can answer questions. I can help newbies. I can try to talk to a collector who's going to buy my shit. But ultimately, I'm just like, the music is the most convincing thing. Like, I'm so confident in my music. That's where I put all my time and energy and effort. I wouldn't be sitting right here. I wouldn't be spending all my time on Twitter Spaces. I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff if I wasn't super confident in the music. So one day I'm just like, you know what? I just want to play the music. Like, so it's kind of like this simple, like so simple it hurts. It's like, what if we just played the music? So I just started playing music out of my laptop into my phone, and I would just sit there. And at first I couldn't get more than 5 to 10 people in the room. And then like eventually one of my homies came in and said like, hey, can you play one of my songs? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. So like I played one of his songs. Then I was like, oh, well, like there's something cool about this. Like I'm playing my homie's song, like, and there's like 5 other people listening. And then someone else came in like, hey, can you play my song? And then I'm like, yeah, like give me a minute, wait around. And I'm like, wait a second, like wait around. Like, all right. So then people started coming in and saying like, all right, like I want to play my song. And I would say, okay, just like hang around and listen with us for a while. So now,
how do you judge what people like and what they don't?
Well, I go by what I like. It's my show. But
I know, but I'm saying when you have a new artist come in or something.
Sure.
People didn't fuck with that. Maybe you fuck with something that other people didn't, or the other way around. Like, how are you measuring that?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say what it comes down to is the culture that you develop with the show. And for me, the culture is all about positivity. Like, I'm never going to have someone come in and be like, I don't fuck with your music. Like, I'm beyond that point in my career. Like, I feel like as a music artist or as a music fan, like on the like beginning level of your like trip to musical enlightenment, you're very much like, I don't like that song. Like, oh, I love this song. Like, and to me, I'm like way more like I hear potential only. And like if something's not mixed correctly or like something's like not perfect, like I'm so used to that now. And like I see through the whole process. So when someone comes in with something that's like kind of whack, I don't look at it like that. Like, I always just look at what's good about it. Like, I can think of one song right now.
Something to work with.
Right. Like, what I think about right now is, like, I can think of 2 artists. I'm not going to name them, but I can think of 2 artists that are in there a lot. One of them has, like, dope music. It sounds kind of like a young Travis Scott or something, but it's not mixed well. And, like, if you ask me what I genuinely think, I'll be like, it's good, but, like, I couldn't play it because it's not mixed well. But I don't care about that on Music NFT Radio. I still play that stuff because it's dope. And I see the potential of it. And this artist will get better at making it sound better. And so then there's this other artist who comes in and he does some like really indie stuff where he's like singing on the track. And it's like kind of like almost like a little nasally. Like he's not the best singer ever. But I hear on the radio something where this guy isn't the best singer ever. He just has like a cool vibe. So when I hear this guy on my station who's not the best singer ever, but his lyrics are cool and he's picking some rhyme schemes that I would never use, almost in like a quirky kind of weird way. But I see that as good and I don't see that as bad. So I look at people's potential, and that's what I've learned from music NFT radio. But anyway, like I want to get back to like how the genesis of this thing, because like it was April 3rd, a Sunday, when I realized to just start playing the music. And slowly I started bringing people up. And then we probably got to like 10 to 20 people where I was like bringing a few people up playing music, right? And then I started being like, okay, like what if I do NFT giveaways, right? And I let artists play their music and I'm doing NFT giveaways and I'm telling people to retweet the room. And so slowly we started growing until I think that first week we got over 100 people one day in the room. And then that next week we got 192 people in the room one day, which is still our max, 192 live listeners at once, which was still our max. But now we're getting, typically on a day, we run it 24/7, and I'm getting anywhere from 5 to 10,000 unique people coming in per day. And it's been incredible.
10,000.
Yeah, like 5 to 10,000. And that's from doing, the other thing people, like when you said like, oh, you're up for 24 hours straight, like actually, no. I'm actually doing a lot less work than someone who does 8 hours of Twitter Spaces a day. Why? Because now I don't have to say anything. It's running right now at home. And here's the part. So like there's just so many ways this has gone, but now I have the community running it. So what I've also realized is that I built this incredible audience. There's a lot of value to the exposure of being in my Twitter Space. So now upcoming artists who want to get their music played, who are on the playlist, are also the ones helping to co-host and moderate when I'm here. So right now, there's probably an upcoming artist sitting in the chat who's up on stage as a speaker. Everyone sees their account. You know, they're trying to grow their music NFT community.
When does the music? Do they get to decide when the music stops? Then
I have the music played automated, but what they do is they just sit there between songs and they'll say like, "Hey, it's DJ Groove. He's one of our helpers. You're listening to Music NFT Radio."
So there's set time between songs.
Nope. There's just at the end of a song, you could talk over the song. You can talk over the song. You can talk over the song. So at the end of the song, they'll chime in, and the value for them is just to be a curator and someone on stage, because there's like 50 or 100 people listening. And so what I've realized too is now I've formed this team and community that helps me run the radio. And for them, the value is so huge of just being able to sit there and say, hey, it's Allie and you're listening to Music NFT Radio. Like our friend Allie has just been gaining new community and new followers every day because she's sitting there and helping to moderate the radio. So it's created this beautiful incentive structure where we have a community radio that's community and interactive. You know, I have the setup. This has taken a lot of my technology skills and a whole combination of skills that I've been perfectly set up for, because I have.
So?
Yeah, so I have a pretty complicated setup that runs through my audio equipment and then runs through this iRig to my phone. I mean, it's not that complicated, but you need to be an audio person to figure it out a little bit. So I run
to get the music playing, basically,
because I'm running
high quality,
so that I can run studio quality music into my cell phone into Twitter.
Got
So
it.
you need to have a setup that allows you to run studio quality music into your phone, and then you also have to have a mic for that. And then I also have like effects. So when you listen, it sounds like the radio. Like I have all types of effects, and like just to give you an idea of how like the average or 99% of people on more. 99.9, everybody except me hosting Twitter Spaces is just talking to their phone.
Yeah.
You come into mine and you hear a radio quality stream. You hear me sounding like I probably do on this podcast because there's some good stuff running on it, you know? So that is what's so different about Music NFT Radio. Most people have never had a Twitter Spaces experience like this. So now I've given the overview. Let me get to the important key principles, because this will help you understand like more of what's going on here.
There's another thing though before you go on,
Sure.
because my mind is really turning on this. Like at first glance, of course, like anything, people could come up with, you know, their criticism of it and like, okay, well, there's just gonna be artists in there like trying to pump their music and it actually sucks. That's a reality. Like there's gonna be people who suck and they never go anywhere because they don't have a backstory, all that stuff. But the discoverability of what you're talking about, leveraging a community of people who want to go to a similar place who are incentivized to try to find people as well because this is related to NFTs. So it's like,
Right.
oh, could I go invest in something?
It's the only radio where you can listen and invest in the artist live, real time, while you're listening. And the other thing to consider is it's my radio, and I'm strong on this. Like, it's my radio station. It's for my community. It's for my NFT collectors. So the artists that get play on radio are very much curated by me. Now, we are totally open to any artist that wants to come in, be a
Sean
part of the
was.
community, earn their spot on the radio, right? But what I believe in is the value of repetition. So this isn't just like a show where it's like every day we're trying to play the brand new music from the new artists who came in. This is like every day we're playing the same music from our favorite artists that we're supporting to the top. Because what I've realized is the way radio makes a hit or the way TikTok makes a hit is not, it's from repetition, right? And so I've realized that, and this all came from the genesis, like I told you, of let me just play my music on loop. Because I realized that I have a big catalog of music. I have like almost 50 songs. Like the Crypto Rich album is 19 songs. And this is what separates me from a lot of music NFT
you got all
artists.
your early stuff
Because
too.
Because
Go ahead.
as a music NFT artist, a lot of them are kind of starting out or trying something new. But for me, I'm like, yo, I could just loop Crypto Rich 19 songs and, you know, reasonably no one would even notice because it's like a 30-minute album and most people are in and out quick. And so that's kind of what made it easy for me to go down this path because I was like, because at first it was just more of like the selfish idea, like I want to play my own music.
Right,
Like
and now
the
it's expanded.
selflessness came more from realizing how much more I can do for myself and others with this, right?
This feels a lot. What I'm saying is, and I gotta really go look through this. This feels a lot like 2009, 2008, 2010 area. I went out of order there, but you get the point.
SoundCloud.
YouTube.
On YouTube.
No, not even SoundCloud yet.
Yeah.
But yes, SoundCloud. On YouTube, where everyone was like, oh, yeah, you're going to start a
Yo,
fucking
I'll
YouTube
blow
channel
your
and
fucking
get
mind,
discovered.
man.
This
Yeah.
is like the way to do it because, and here's the kicker.
Yeah.
You can play things that repeat, and you can play the new artists who come in there and then play them a bunch over and over again, and you may get people to be like, oh, man, that's fire, bro, because they want to see them go up because they're buying their NFT. But if it doesn't, if it doesn't translate to Web 2, you have a data point to prove, like, okay, artist A didn't translate to Web 2, so probably not good. But
Yeah.
artist B, who had the same amount of NFT sales as artist A, who's getting the same amount of play on Famous Dill's radio station, they got a couple million streams in Web 2.
Yeah.
Talent. There it
Yeah,
is. Like
definitely.
this is, you can spot the fucking talent here.
Definitely.
This is pretty wild.
Definitely. I mean, there's two things I want to say. First of all is the AM FM thing. Second of all is our core principles, which is related to what you just said. But because a big part of what we're trying to do is not just be NFTs, I think we can change the whole algorithms and convert people from the radio to real viral success in Web 2 and sell way more NFTs long term.
What do you
that
mean
way.
by that? Back up.
I know there's so much in there, but
Yeah, there's
I
a lot
want to.
there.
I want to get. Let me go back. Let me get back to that. Okay. First, I want to blow your mind. Okay.
All right, blow my mind, then
All right.
go back to that.
Let me blow your mind first. So, when AM radio first came out, when the radio was first invented, all of the radio was talk shows, like we're talking right now. The whole radio, AM radio, right? This was before FM radio. They didn't do music. The cool thing about the radio is everyone could listen to a talk show, okay? Yes. And there was no music. And then FM radio came out. And actually, before FM radio came out, they might have a band come into the studio and play like live music on AM radio, but no one was playing recorded music. And then FM radio came out, which was
When was that?
I don't know the exact years, but
I'll look it up.
FM radio comes out, and it's much better for transmitting quality music. But at first, people would have bands come in and do live performances because people just didn't get this idea of playing recorded music. Now, before I continue with this story, Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse has started out 100% like AM radio. Everybody's just talking. Nobody's playing music. Everybody's just talking. It's a talk show, okay? So Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse are following the same progression as AM and FM radio. That is the point I'm getting at, and let me explain it even more. So with Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse, just like when you saw AM radio in the beginning
Twitter
of
Spaces. Clubhouse is dead.
Sure, Clubhouse is dead. R.I.P. R.I.P. So anyway, R.I.P. to Clubhouse. So with Twitter Spaces, right? the beginning is like AM radio. Everybody's just talking, only talk shows. And that's what you saw with the real AM radio. Now, there was the exact same progression where people would start coming on Twitter Spaces and do like a little concert or a little show, or have someone come in and do live music. That's pretty common, right?
It's low quality too.
It's low quality too. And that's pretty common. Just like how people would go into the AM radio station and play at the station on the air. And that was the first way they did it. And then FM radio came out. And then they would have maybe higher quality. And this is the exact same progression, because on Twitter Spaces, over the last few months, people have been figuring out how to get the iRig set up and do my setup to get high quality, but it was still like for a concert. Like, oh, someone's holding NFT music concert, everyone go in. And by the way, for anyone who doesn't know, NFTs have been the cornerstone of Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse. So when we talk about like NFTs on Twitter Spaces, it is like the biggest topic on there. So that's why I'm saying like people have been figuring this out, but it would be more like NFT music concert on Twitter, or just like music, or like come play your music. And so what really changed the game, and the same thing happened in FM radio, is when someone said, let's just play the recorded music and loop it. Because that was also not intuitive for me. Like it took me a little bit of thinking to realize like, wait, we can just like loop the most of the same songs. And not only is that going to be fine and entertaining for the audience, and they're going to like it because they're going to get more familiar with the songs, and they're going to get excited when it comes on, but it's also better for the artist, because then people will actually know the songs, and they'll stream the songs, and they'll support the songs, right? So the same thing has happened. AM and FM radio, the same thing is happening on Twitter Spaces. It's gone from this talk show vibe, and now I have been the first one to pioneer this FM radio style, or like FM radio of Twitter, where I'm playing recorded music and high quality and just doing it 24/7. And so that was the huge transition from AM radio, talk shows all day, to FM radio, which is 24/7 high quality music. And I have just pioneered that same transition within Twitter Spaces. And so it was so cool when someone first told me about this. And then I talked to my uncle, who actually helped to build like radio stations in New York when he was like in college, like the actual beginning of all this. And it's crazy because I was asking him, like, is this true? Like, was AM radio all talking and then everyone went to FM? And like half of the information I just told you came from the conversation with him, where he told me that all of this was very true. And he immediately understood what I was talking about. And he was the one who told me that like, They didn't play recorded music at first. Like they would have the bands come into the studio because nobody thought like, let's just play the recordings and just fucking loop them, because that's like lazy, right? But it's not lazy. It is what became the future of FM radio. But now it's almost like we're going to something different, because now instead of like, you know, on the radio, it's like if you hear a recording of like, you know, hey, this is Dua Lipa and you're listening to the radio, right? Like that's a recording. But on Twitter Spaces, we bring the artist in live. So the artist is right there. So and we let listeners chime in too. So you get to call and say, hey, Dill, I love your song. I'm calling in from New Jersey. Love it, man. And then I'll respond and say, hey, thanks for listening, man. And we do that times 100 every day with all these artists. We've had big artists come in. If you know Chantel Lane, she's like a really big singer. She had a song called T-Shirt that was really big and Impossible. So like she has big songs. She comes in there and hangs out with us. Like we have so many talented artists that actually come in here and hang out with us and talk to the community. So yeah, there's been that transition that's just like AM to FM radio. So that's the thing that I want to tell you that's going to...
Can you monetize this?
I mean, the whole thing's connected to my NFTs. So if you hold my NFTs...
I know that, but I'm saying, can you create some sort of like NFT project that is around the radio, not your music, the actual radio,
so,
and what you're creating?
Yeah, like, so that is what my NFTs do now. So like this radio station is directly connected to my NFTs.
Right, they're connected, right? But it's still connected directly to your music. Is there a way to also have a lane where it's not connected to any of your music and it's connected to the fact that you built this and this is your community?
I could, but that would be doing a disservice to like my community that I've built over the last year, I think. Like
it can be two communities. That's what I'm saying. It can be both.
Yeah.
They can get the benefits of both.
I mean, yeah, I get it. I just personally don't see why I would want to drive the sales away from my NFTs when I've already figured out how to connect it. Like I've already sold like I've done a lot of sales in the past month or so, and I brought on like probably 50 to 100 new collectors and all these things, and a lot of them are buying the NFTs to get access to the show, right? So if you have one of my NFTs, we bring you right up on stage and play your music and put you right in the rotation, right? So basically, if you hold my NFTs, you get access to the show. So there's two ways to earn a spin on the show. One way is to come in as a listener, listen to the radio, enjoy the music, hang out on stage. And then when you're on stage as a speaker and waiting to play your music, you're going to get so much exposure. Like these artists are gaining, 100 followers a day just from being on stage, even if their music isn't getting played. And so what you can do is come in and earn a spin. This is the only radio station in the world where you can come in and listen. And just by being a listener, you can earn a spin. Now, of course, as we grow, it's harder and harder to earn a spin. I mean, if you came in when we had 10 people, I would have put your music on right away. But now we're chilling there with 100 people casually, so of course it's a little harder.
Now the access.
But now it's like if you want to support the show financially, you can buy one of my NFTs, which is going direct creator from me to my audience, and then we bring them right up on the show, put them on the playlist. So we've had a lot of NFT sales because people are buying my NFTs to get more exposure for their own music. So like I think in some ways it pretty much already is what you're saying about NFTs connected to the radio. I would consider something like that, but for me, it really is like I want to drive the value to my NFTs. Like it would be more interesting for me to release another Dill NFT for my album and say, hey, buy my album to get access to radio. Because I want to sell the music. And if radio becomes a tool that helps me sell the music, then like that's in line with my goals. So I think that's a big part of it. And like this is a good time for me to say this. Like I want to talk about that. There's only two core principles in music NFT radio. And I think developing a culture is so important in any type of community, right? And here we go. Number one thing is culture, right? And culture is another thing like music where it's about repetition. So you come on my show for long enough, you'll hear me say the same things over and over again because it's so important for me to get everybody on the same page. That's how I've built this show. That's how I've built this energy. That's how I built a community of positivity. There's no one should feel any pressure coming up to play their music because we're never going to say like, oh, that song is kind of whack or like, don't come back. Like never, we would never do that. Like everyone gets support. Everyone feels loved and supported in the community. And so even if your song needed some work, like, there's a chance we might like try to give you constructive feedback. But in most cases, we're just like, hey, thanks for coming in and like supporting the radio because these artists are genuinely there to just enjoy music and support. So we're not in the business of like, giving them a hard time about their music. Because I know what it's like to be like a artist playing your music for the first time. It's like nerve-wracking, right? So the two core principles of music NFT radio, like the culture we're building. Number one is that we are a music-focused Twitter space. I know that's super simple, but it's so new that nobody gets it. I mean, every other Twitter space you go into is a talk show. So the first core principle is we are focused on music, high-quality audio, 24/7. Like a radio.
And there's nothing else like this right now.
There's nothing else like this. So that's why that has to be our first core principle because nobody gets that. So this is like the radio on Twitter Spaces. And I say that and it should click, but it doesn't click. So that's why I have to explain. That means it's a music-focused Twitter space that runs 24/7 and plays high-quality audio.
See, like the radio business has had such trouble because it's dying in a lot of ways because people aren't, if they're not in their car, and even in their car, they're on Sirius.
Okay,
sometimes
we're going to get there, too.
But hold on. I'm saying, like, I've always wondered how they hadn't done deals or figured out something to be able to live stream on Instagram or live stream on Twitter or something like that. It makes no sense, but here you are literally doing
it. Yeah. And so that's the other thing, but I want to get through the core principles, but XM radio, regular radio, it's 2022. The only time you can listen is in your car. And I don't have a car right now.
Well, you can get it on. But the point is you have to go somewhere else.
I'm being realistic.
Yeah.
I'm being realistic.
Yes,
the only time most people listen is in their car. Maybe some people have like XM radio app on their phone. Like I think my dad might do that.
But how many people?
Right.
Whereas everyone's going on Instagram.
So the point is
going on Twitter.
Everybody has a phone. And I almost see this as like, and I've seen this with my community. It's kind of like how, back in the day, everyone had a radio. Like everyone would be huddled around like the one radio. But now it's like, if everyone can tune into this Twitter radio on their phone, and it has this element of like invest in the music while you're listening, like this is what's grown it so big already, is just this idea that like anyone can tap in anytime. You don't have to be in your car. You don't have to. So anyway, I think that's huge. But I want to say about the core principles, right? There's only two. The first one is, I know it's so mind blowing, but so simple at the same time. This is a music focused Twitter space.
So we play
music.
Yep.
The second one is that we're not just focused on music NFTs. We think we can make a difference for the artists on other websites like streaming, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. So we have a playlist on all those sites, and we encourage all the listeners, if they like a song, go look it up, support the YouTube video, add it to your Spotify playlist, because my vision for music NFTs is that we want to support an artist to get to the top of the charts, make it onto Billboard, get onto Spotify viral, get their, YouTube video trending on the YouTube trending playlist, because this is the path to get millions of collectors into music NFTs, right? This is the path. So that's also that's another thing where it's so different from what everything else on Twitter Spaces represents, because every other Twitter Space is like, hey, buy NFTs. Spotify sucks. They don't pay enough. Fuck Spotify. I mean, you got to see it to believe it. You go in any other Twitter Space. I mean, best case scenario, they might be saying like, hey, buy music NFTs. I guess Spotify is not so bad, but nobody else is doing what I'm doing, is saying, hey, this Twitter Space, we can make a difference for the artists. We can affect the algorithm. Okay, I keep saying, we're going to take artists to Billboard in this space, right? And like, maybe now we only have 100 people in the room, but imagine if we get 1,000 people in the room. Imagine we get 10,000 people in the room.
You said you're getting 10,000 unique people
over a day. Over a day.
Do you know how fucking valuable? Now what's the average lag time? Like a minute and a half?
What's the lag time? What do you mean?
Or not lag time? The average listen time.
I don't get that information, but the best information to me is how many of those people are converting into followers of my account.
So let's go. I won't even go there yet, but fair point. Let's go conservative. Let's say it's 5,000, not 10,000. We'll go lesser, right? And let's say out of that 5,000, we'll use the number you just used a few minutes ago. You have 100 people a day, and 7 days a week, let's say that overlap of like unique people, it's a total of like 350 unique people.
No, it's 5,000 to 10,000 unique per day.
I know. Okay, I'm going ultra conservative.
Okay.
The value that I'm talking about, people who are mega fans, invested as fuck in that shit, right? Like my friend Will Toms would be sitting here, like I gotta tell him about this. He'll love this. But like when you extrapolate that out and then think about the effect that can have, because these are people who are invested. The power of their voices to drive quality work, not just work they're going to go invest in because they're like, oh, I heard this on the radio. I think this guy's got an interesting personality. I'll just bet on him, and it might suck. It's like the people who are going to find the projects that then they also really fuck with. They're listening to it in the gym. They're listening to it outside that space, and now suddenly they go stream it. They share it with their friends and everything. This is like
game changer.
Yeah. No, this is really good, man.
So now you get the vision, man. So we think, and we are the only Twitter space that's telling people, go stream on Spotify, go support on YouTube. Because I've seen how that works with the Jordan Belfort record. Like, Jordan Belfort didn't just have this overnight TikTok, the next day I'm blown up. I saw it build over years. So I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm getting 5,000 to 10,000 unique people in this room per day. I'm getting 300 to 500 followers on some days. You know how many days I got 500 followers when Jordan Belfort was going platinum? 0. There wasn't a fucking day where I got 500 followers in a day. Seriously, because the Jordan Belfort song blew up. It got a lot of streams, but none of that.
Can you take people through that again? Like you mentioned it a little bit last time, but just for like a refresher. When you made the song, I think you dropped it officially in like late 2014?
Late 2000 or early 2013, because the movie came out, I believe, December 25th.
Early 2014, because it came out in 2013, right? December 2013.
I thought it came out 2012, December 25th, 2012, and then we made it beginning of 2013.
I'll look it up, but go ahead, explain.
But I'm pretty sure that's right. But anyway, we put that song out, and for about a year and a half, 2 years, that song really
did 2013.
Okay, got you. So we made it early 2000. See, I'm giving myself an extra year there that I don't need. I don't need that year.
You don't need that.
I don't need that year.
That year's history.
Yeah. So anyway, it came out early 2014. So for about a year and a half, like it just slowly grew on SoundCloud. Like the first 1 million streams on SoundCloud took 1.5 years.
Now, but here's a key though.
Yeah.
It's hard to get to 1 million streams. You're coming off zero. You're a nobody. No one knew who the fuck you were. You were a kid. You were in high school, right? So how did you get it to 1 million streams?
That was nothing. That was natural, just organic, like because it was on SoundCloud and maybe because it was called Jordan Belfort. So that's the other thing that is like huge, but it's too early to see. It's like, that's what happened when I did nothing. And what I'm doing now is like the leading indicator for like what probably is going to happen when I do something in the beginning. And like Jordan Belfort, like that was 1.5 years of like doing nothing. And then it got to 1 million streams and all of a sudden we were like, oh shit, we should do something. And then that's when we went and shot the music video. And then that stuff helped accelerate the song, but it was already on its way at that point. And so that I've seen through that process that like it doesn't have to be some kind of overnight success on TikTok or something. You can have a song that just naturally gets an audience, and like you just said, you gain these people who are super fans. Probably with the Jordan Belfort song, what happened is we showed it to some people. It got around a little bit from our networks, just from casually showing it to people. And then some people found it and they liked the fact that it was Jordan Belfort, and they became, like you said, like this super fan who's telling people. And so
I be getting dirty money, Jordan Belfort.
Right. So over 1.5 years, this song blew up. And so now I look at, now I've got almost a decade of knowledge behind me, and I look at myself gaining 300 to 500 followers on Twitter in a day, and I go, holy shit, like as many millions of streams as the Jordan Belfort song did, I never had this many people coming and following me and supporting me. And it's still because they like my music, because they're still coming into my music space and hearing a lot of my music. But the key is that by my analysis, I am growing my own brand so much bigger than what this Jordan Belfort song ever did for me. And so I see this as like the leading indicator of what's going to happen. And so that's why I am one of the only music NFT artists, especially since most music NFT artists are like newer artists, and there's very few that are like really accomplished. And then even out of the accomplished artists, like some of them maybe had like a perfect label deal and like everything worked out for them, and they didn't have to think about like some of this shit that I have to think about, right? Because let's face it, like there are artists who stuff works out for them and they don't have to worry about like marketing. They don't have like, they can really just and so I do think some of the artists in music NFTs are like that, or maybe they're just so far in their career that they're not so focused on little stuff anymore. But for me, I just kind of see it like, okay, if I watch that song grow over 1.5 years, imagine a year down the line. We're only 1 month into music NFT radio. So imagine a year down the line what could be happening, or what kind of audience I could build, or how the Spotify algorithm is going to view all of the artists on our radio that have been getting consistent streams for not just from the radio, but from the radio fans who go out and stream on their own, like getting those consistent streams and building up over time. So I kind of see that potential of like, we just need to focus on the long term, because I'm selling music NFTs today, but my grandkids are going to get fed off of the royalties from my copyright that I'm going to build up with my community, right? And then we're going to create so much value for my NFTs by connecting it to my radio, my tour, my merch, and all this stuff. And so as the value of radio grows, it just naturally is going to add to the value of my community. But yeah, I think a key thing that I have realized in my position is that we can make a difference. Like we can sit here every day and support these artists and tell people to stream, and that will add up over time.
Provided and again, the market will always be the arbiter of truth. The market will tell over time who's good and who's not. And that, in a way, you don't have to worry about that completely. If you're playing shit music all the time, that may affect the brand. But I'm saying, like, you can be the space for discoverability. It can kind of be like the lottery for the listener. Forget the artist. The listener gets to say, every song that comes on that's new, I get to hear if I hear potential. You know how much people love discovering shit. They love discovering shit.
See, another thing also that I want to add into the mix, because like this is part of my journey to like musical enlightenment or whatever.
Musical enlightenment.
That's powerful. Okay, and like some part of what happens is you lose some of the magic. And the best way to describe that to someone from the outside is the difference between thinking, oh wow, well if it's a great song, everyone's going to hear it right away and love it. And if you just play it enough, everybody's going to fucking love it, even if it's a shitty song. And so, we know some of those songs, right?
Yes.
So the real question is how much of it is really magic and how much of it is really repetition and other psychological factors that are not necessarily related to musical quality. And so on the trip to musical enlightenment, one thing you need to realize is that at least 50% of people cannot hear a tune, hold a beat, sing, like. And so if you can't sing, hold a beat, hear a tune, you don't like rap music, how can you judge if a song in that category, or for most people, how can you judge if a song is good if you can't hold a tune yourself? So well, that's one thing that I started to realize. But along the way, what I, without getting too deep, because I could go all day about music psychology, like I could go all day. I've thought about this so much. But at the end of the day, the most simple way to explain my conclusion, there is an abundance of good music. There's an abundance of good, solid music that has chart-topping potential. Like, seriously, there's a lot of people making good music. There's a scarcity of hustle. There's a scarcity of opportunities to get repetition. So when I hear music, a lot of times I'm like, all right, that was dope. Like, if that artist found the right strategy, like, it could be chart-topping potential. And so that's one thing that I've realized is there's definitely an abundance of good, solid music. Like, the hardest thing to have is the hustle and the opportunity to get that music heard.
Well, here's the other problem. The music industry has sold artists a lie. And the lie is actually cloaked in something that's true over all of history for music, by the way, and that is that music is a singles business. And the reason I say that it is a lie now is because even if the statement is still true, the practice of how that happens is not. Because what the music industry has allowed all these artists to assume is that, okay, that means I just need to put all my energy into one song, which, by the way, isn't just making the song and trying to make the hit, right? Mm-hmm. And a singular focus on one sound that like might do this thing that could be a fucking TikTok somewhere. It also then comes down to all the bullshit they have to do around it. Mm-hmm. So if the idea is like, oh, I need to create one song a month that's a single, then by the way, they're starving artists, they're young, they're trying to figure it out, they're trying to come up, so they're doing everything you talked about themselves. They're making the artwork, they're making some sort of social trend, some fucking dance to go with it. They're pumping it on their Instagram stories to the point that their Instagram stories are a skip for everyone. They're doing all this shit, putting all this energy, all these different decision points and focus points into one song, and then it's always a letdown. Because if it doesn't go to the fucking Billboard 100 and they didn't make it, well, what the fuck was the point? And now, oh, you just did that song? Now you got to do the whole thing over again with a new song next month. So what the music industry is allowed, that what they've encouraged is people to just make these singles and exhaust themselves and put all their energy and hope, not just the energy, the hope into one little fucking thing, such that they don't make projects that allow singles to organically form. Mm-hmm. So now, if you give people a different way that's not this fucking hamster wheel where they got to get in there and they got to make music through, the social fucking posting and all the bullshit that goes around it, but you give them a way to actually find communities who are interested in finding music, and it's not on some fucking radio station somewhere, it's actually organically within a social platform like Twitter where people already are and they're looking for shit to enjoy. Well, now you're creating a new way for artists to then make their art such that they can maybe now start to focus on making full projects, so that there's a library there where people and the audience can organically find the singles. Right. That is what makes me excited about this, because it is the number one thing that drives me nuts about fucking music these days.
Yeah, man, I totally agree with you. And, one thing that's happening here that I've stuck with is like, I know my album is awesome, and that's why I've worked so hard for the past few years on just promoting this album. Like, I have a ton of new music, I have new stuff that I could post out, but what I learned through that process with Jordan Belfort is like, there's definitely some value to focusing on this music that it's great and pushing it, right? Because at the end of the day, I bet someone like you, maybe you've only heard Crypto Rich a couple times. Maybe there's songs you haven't heard on Crypto Rich Deluxe, nothing negative, just saying like, even someone like you who knows me well, wants to support me and my brand, all this stuff, the music might not be so familiar to everyone. And so that's what I've realized too, is like, there is a large gap between getting someone to know you, like this is them getting to know you, and then all the way over here is them actually listening to your music. And actually listening to your music is not the same as like, oh, I heard Jordan Belfort, bro, and I heard your one Crypto Rich song, that was dope. That's like the average person who might want to support me. But there is such a difference between getting them to actually listen to the music, and that difference is the repetition and the significance of saying, it might be a significance thing too, where it's like, maybe you didn't listen to Crypto Rich before, but now that you hear that I'm getting all these, that my radio is going really well, then you go back to Crypto Rich and say, all right, well, now he's got a platform. Does this album actually have potential? And then you listen through it like 5 times, and I swear that it is the part, this is music psychology again, the act of people listening to the music to try to decide, is this good enough to be a hit? It's like the thing that takes an artist from like the beginning to like that upwards trend, because people start listening to the music and they're I feel like they're trying to decide, like, is this a hit? Like, is this good? Is it not?
Yeah,
and through that process, they actually start to enjoy the music. And then the other thing I look to is like, we think of some of our favorite music artists and like the most in-demand artists in the world, and like it's almost like their strategy is like holding off the music, and it's like pretty much intentional, I think. So that's why I'm kind of like,
what do you mean?
I mean, there's so many artists who
like
it's
Kendrick Lamar,
like Kendrick Lamar, like Lil Uzi Vert, like, oh, I'm dropping next month. Oh, never mind, next year. Oh, never mind.
They are in their right to be able to do that.
They are in their right to be able to do that. And I think that it is the same kind of strategy that an independent artist is doing, where it's like, look, all of my music is growing so well. There's still new people discovering me so much. And so it's like, they could drop a new album, sure, but in their case, maybe it's because more like they don't need to. It's not done yet, kind of thing.
That's a danger, though. This is another disconnect, and I think and this is me looking from the outside at different artists and how people grow over time. What I find is that when you get locked in on like, oh, this was just my masterpiece, right? Like, people don't have a body of work like you've had for a long time. You know, I'm talking more the people who have never done shit, never really made anything, and they're like, oh, but I know this is fire, so I'm gonna hold off and market it the best. That is fucking dangerous.
Yeah.
The minute you are done creating something is the minute it is now the world's. Give it to them and fucking roll. The people who are the Kendrick Lamars, Lil Uzi Verts, these guys are mega stars. They can do this. And by the way, not for nothing, I think Kendrick Lamar is going to be fine because he's fucking Kendrick Lamar and he put out so many things, but he pissed off his fans a little bit, like waiting a little too long on this one.
Definitely,
you know?
definitely.
So
I hear that.
That's even a balance. So I think like the battle of creativity is difficult because you have to keep doing it. It's not just like, you can't rest on your laurels with it at all, because every minute you're not creating something is a minute that what you've already done is getting older, you know, and you lose it. Like, it's the saddest thing when you see people comment on stuff on social media. I see it all the time on TikTok. Like, you know, they'll be like, oh, so-and-so fell off. It's like, and then you go look at so-and-so and they're like, well, they haven't created anything. That's why they fell off.
Yeah, man, totally. I mean, I totally see that side of it too. You need to keep creating, but there's definitely a balance between like over creating or, you know, creating too much versus focusing, because there is some branding to it. But then, of course, I think that it depends where you're at in your career. If you're a new artist, you should be thinking about having, you know, 10 songs before you're trying to make that one hit, just so that there's something there. Like, the biggest problem for me is I blew up with no other music out. I put featuring Dill in the original title because I didn't have a SoundCloud. Not because it was like I actually wrote the entire song before Wes saw the movie. So like, I was really 50% of the song, and we ended up being 50-50 on the song. You know, Wes is a great friend. He didn't try to say, oh, Dill, you're just the feature.
Right.
Because we really made that song together. But it just shows you how unprepared I was to have a music career, because I didn't even have the wits about me to say, oh, well, this is Dill and Wes. It wasn't until later when I was like, wow, this might become something. Like, I need this to be Wes and Dill, not featuring Dill.
The best and worst thing that ever happened to you was the fact that song was named Jordan Belfort, and that you didn't have a library yet because you were so young. It's the best thing because you saw the timing, like, it was brandable. It's Jordan Belfort, like, and he's like a celebrity in his own now. He grew into that.
Yeah, very intentional. Like, that's the whole reason we did it that way. Yeah.
But also, if you are looking to search the web privately and not have all these websites track you when you leave, check out my friends over at Privado VPN. Privado VPN is the VPN company that gives you full privacy while losing you no speed, and you can use it on up to 10 different devices at a time. So you can use it on your laptop, on your phone, on your bat phone, everywhere. It's a beautiful thing. So use that link in my description and you will go to my landing page with Privado, and you'll see a plan there for $4.99 a month. It is the same one I use. Check it out. You're going to love it. it's bad in the sense that your people think of the song, they're like, oh, Jordan Belfort.
I'm Jordan Belfort,
Yes,
right?
you're not, they don't go like
I'm Jordan
you ask
Belfort,
people who sang it, they're like,
Jordan Belfort.
Yeah, Jordan Belfort guy.
Yeah, right.
And it's funny and it's like great, but like it missed. If you if you had been a couple years older and had a full library, now they're like, oh,
then they would
Dylan
have
West
found
made
the old
that
music.
song.
Right.
Yeah.
They would have found the old music. And so that was one of the biggest problems. And also one of the reasons why if I was the record label, I probably also would have been like, who the fuck are these guys? Let's just throw them some money and see if it sticks. Right.
Yeah.
So I get that part of it. And that is one of the biggest mistakes. It's not a mistake because there was no possible way in the universe that I would have had more music. Just like there's no possible way in the universe I could have known this song I put on SoundCloud is going to become this major hit. But ultimately, if I would have had a catalog of music, that could have gotten a lot of attention from all of this, right? And so building a catalog of music over the last years has been a big part of my journey. But also, Jordan Belfort was a life-changing record for me. It's the thing that made me decide to be a music artist full time. So I had to put in that sweat equity and that work to actually take my music career to where it is now. But now that I have all this set up and I have the platform coming, it is a lot easier for me to say no to a label knowing what I know now versus before when the label come along and I'm 18 or 19 and we're just wondering, hey, wow, we made $1,000 this week. Is it going to continue next week? And now these guys are offering us $30,000. Little did we know that this song would go on to make thousands of dollars per week for the next decade. So
you have leverage
little
now.
did we know, but now I understand how this game works. So I see the numbers coming in. I see myself get 500 followers in a day on Twitter, and then I look at my credit card bill and I go, shit, man, I would love to have some more money to pay this credit card bill, but I know the value of what's happening for me right now, and I'm not going to just take some deal so I can, pay my credit card bill. Because if I actually hold off on this stuff, I know what it can be worth because I've seen it happen with one of my other records. So now it's like I'm not dealing with a record anymore. I'm dealing with a 19-song album, and now I can look at it from a better place where I'm like, yo, this is worth so much more than the Jordan Belfort record.
And that's what I'm saying. I think you got to leverage this. I think you got to keep creating shit. I think you got to go. I think you got to do stuff that's outside of just like the crypto theme and everything.
So yeah,
I just
am.
keep
That's
making
a
your
really
fucking
good
music.
point. Like, so I actually have a whole album that's completely different from the crypto theme. You're gonna like it. It's something that appeals to an older generation. It is related to a really big
When are we dropping
film.
this?
It's related to, I don't want to give it away, but it's related to a really big popular film that everybody knows that's musically related. No. Close. But it's something that everybody will know the idea of it. Kind of like how Jordan Belfort has that, like everybody, not everyone knows, it's bigger than
Goodfellas.
You're kind of close, not really, but anyway,
I'm not close.
You're not close, but when you hear it, you're gonna understand it's the perfect fit, and it's good because a lot of people are gonna understand it. So like people who are like my mom, and you're like 60 years old or whatever, you're gonna know this thing, and the music is still gonna be like a hip hop style, but it's something that an older generation will see the branding and immediately know what it is, and so I think that's cool because Jordan Belfort has been marked as a song of like under 30 crowd. Like people over 30, maybe over 40 now, they don't know the song. So anyway, the thing is that I have this amazing crypto community. And if I make a move away from crypto music right now, I'm just thinking like it'll be that much harder to go back. So I decided to postpone that album, which has a completely different theme in favor.
Hold on. Why not work that right in? Who gives a fuck? It doesn't.
Well,
That's the
well,
point. It doesn't need. Dill. It doesn't need a crypto theme. You don't need a crypto theme to prove your concept of what you've already proven.
I hear you, bro. I hear you. But let me get to it because the what's coming up is like a in between album. It's called the NFT mixtape, and so it's gonna be a drop specifically for the NFT community. And the other thing is like, at the end of the day, I'm an artist running a business. Like I know this NFT mixtape is going to hit like with my community, and I'll be able to sell a lot of music doing this, and I'll be able to get the funding I want to do, and that's going to make that next album that much better.
Is it all NFT themed?
So
the music?
The NFT album is, but the next one isn't. But think about it like this. the NFT mixtape is going to get me more funding, more community, and more leverage to make this next one even bigger. And for the next one, it's something where if I went to like the owner of the original copyright and got some like samples cleared and stuff, like there's some industry moves I could make to make that next one even bigger. And so the way I see it is just like, stick with this amazing community that I have that's willing to support before the big move away. But anyway, I see what you're saying, and I totally think that's the future. Like my next album is
because like the artists, I'm just saying though, the artists that come in there and put their music, their songs aren't about crypto or NFTs. They're about whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah, I know, but that's also why I'm probably one of the most successful artists doing it right now. And I think making some of the earliest NFT songs is like something I'm uniquely talented for and also a perfect fit. So,
dude, you're hitting like all the keywords of NFTs. That's exactly what you're doing.
So that's exactly right. I want to have the album that hits every keyword of NFTs so that when you look up the keywords of NFTs, you see Dill every time. That's what I did with Crypto Rich. So you'll notice with Crypto Rich, the first 9 songs when I first released it, I didn't correctly hit the keywords because I didn't realize this. But then the second half of Crypto Rich, you have Bitcoin, blockchain, crypto rich, cryptocurrency, Ethereum. So I put all the keywords when I released those extra 10 songs because I realized that part of this strategy is for me to occupy all the keywords on the streaming sites and everywhere. So, because it's just fun for me, man. I'm just like, yo, I've been making music for a decade and having unreleased songs. And I don't know if you have any friends that make music, but what I found out is after you send them about a couple songs, they ain't listening to that shit anymore. Right? I send my music to my son, like maybe because I don't do it anymore. But like if I send my music to my friends, they might listen to like a song or two every once in a while.
Yeah.
But like most of the time, and every music artist knows this, most of the time you send a song to your friend, they're busy. It's not that they hate you or they hate their music, but they're just busy. And here's the thing, like everybody might be down to listen to a song every once in a while, but as soon as you start sending too many ideas to someone, at least with my friends, because like my friends are busy and shit. If you have a friend who's a music artist, they work with you on music, then God bless you and them. That's great. Like I'm glad you have that relationship. But a lot of my friends they don't care about my music enough, you know?
You got to understand, like it's the same thing with podcasting. I've said this since day one, and it was a great expectation to go in with. When I have friends hit me up, like I do have a couple friends that actually listen to the podcast.
Right.
Stuns me. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing listening to the podcast? You can pick up the phone and call me in. Like, look at any of the big podcasters out there. Look at Lex Friedman. Look at Joe Rogan. Look at Dak Shepard. Look at all these guys. Russell Brand. Their friends don't fucking listen to their podcast.
Yeah, right.
Like that. Most of them don't because it's fucking so and so. I can just call them up. Like why the fuck am I gonna listen to something and be like a layer away that I can just like dial the phone right now and say, hey, what's going on, man? What do you think about this? What's going on with this? Okay, cool. Like if someone comes on, if there's a guest with like a wild story or something, okay, maybe. But like whenever a friend hits me up like, oh, I listen to the podcast, I'm like, you did what? Really? It's not, there's something about having that layer of separation, which is interesting because you're coming into music NFTs now where you get the direct interaction with the fans, but it's like they still don't know you. Right. Like you don't go to the bar with them. You don't like hang out with them. So they love that access to being able to feel like they know you a little bit. Yeah. Whereas like, to your buddies, you're just fucking jerk off number one.
Exactly.
Same thing with me.
Exactly.
This is a creative space thing.
Exactly.
All in all.
It's just how it is, right? So every creative knows that, and so it has brought me a new life because now I can go when I get home from this podcast, I can just jump on a radio and there's gonna be fucking 40 people there, and if I want to play a new song, they're gonna be excited, and that is like. In some ways that is just such a dream right there. Just to feel like, wow, like I can play my fucking shit that I recorded that, it's pretty good because I've been working hard on my stuff. But at the same time, it's like I just recorded that in my bedroom yesterday. But just the idea that I can like have this community to where it's like, if I want, I can go home and just start playing unreleased song after unreleased song. Or if I want, I can go home and just go eat dinner and let the other people run the radio and go to bed without even looking at it and still know that I'm going to be growing the radio in my sleep because there's people getting on there that are excited to help support it. And it's like the classic thing where it's like, maybe I'm tired and I go home and go to sleep, but then maybe, Allie is unable to sleep and she gets on at 2 a.m. and she's just there because, how much do we live in an age where it's like, because of our phones and because we're all trying to do some creative entrepreneurial thing. It's like how you said it in the beginning of the show. How many times do you find yourself just like, oh, I can't sleep, so like I'm gonna grind on something for like my podcast or business, or like you end up staying up till like 4 a.m. editing videos, and it's like this gives the artist and the hustler a 24/7 outlet to then use their like. Because to me, it's like if I'm awake and I can't sleep, like I want to be grinding on my hustle, you know? So so that's why I love the 24/7 radio too, because it just gives
exposure.
It's exposure, it's hustle. Anyone in our community can just come in there. And I know what that's about, you know, because sometimes I find myself, you know, up at 2 a.m. and I'll be just like, you know, responding to DMs or just trying to do something that's productive, because I don't sit still, you know, like I'm doing something. So
no, you don't. Like you're always moving. That's one thing about you. You're always doing something. There's no laziness in you at all.
Well, you know what?
But
you know
what about like the greater space? Like, have you been with it, like across the entire NFT community? It seems to me, but I haven't really talked with you about it. Like, have you been networking a lot with people moving and shaking? And if so, who?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I focus mostly on the NFT community, music NFT community. There is like, I would call them, there's like a cool kids of like NFTs where they're like really focused on like flipping NFTs and like the new profile picture mint and like whatever's going on with like Bored Apes and like, you know, there's like the hype squad of NFTs. And like, you know, maybe I did something wrong or whatever. Like, I didn't make enough money in NFTs to be like messing around with those guys. So, like, well, you know, I mean, look, at the end of the day, like, I, you know, maybe to my own detriment, but I have focused only on music NFTs. Like, I just try, at this point, I just only focus on music NFTs. Like, I'm collecting music NFTs. I collect some other stuff, but at this point, especially with radio, like, I'm able to lock in only on music NFTs and network within that community. But yeah, I've met some cool people in the NFT space. I mean, I mostly work with like Nifty Sax and Fifi Wrong, who are two upcoming artists in music NFTs. I've been working with Violetta Zeroni a lot, who's an Italian singer who's crushing it in NFT.
She sounds hot as
Violetta.
Fuck.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's great, and a beautiful voice as well. But yeah, she's awesome. So I've been working a lot with really the artists of music NFTs. But I don't know. I connect with so many people in the community. Like it's really hard to pick at this point. I mean, like I said, Chantel Lane is a big artist who comes in, but I'm mostly focused on music artists. But I like to bring in all different types of entrepreneurs in the space. Like there's this guy, Pro Trader Mike. He's awesome. He's always coming on my show.
What were you doing? What were you doing up in? Maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but I feel like this was maybe 4 or 5 months ago. You were up in New York with a bunch of people.
Yeah, NFT NYC. So let's talk about that. Last year, I almost didn't go to this event, biggest NFT event in the world, NFT NYC.
Yeah, that's coming up in June.
Yep, another one's coming up in June. So I didn't have a ticket. The tickets are thousands of dollars. I didn't want to go. Everyone on Twitter Spaces was telling me, "Oh, just go and be there. It'll be worth it." Which I like believed them, but also I'd never done that before. I never gone to a festival, or not festival, a conference, and just been in the city. But people were telling me that, and I've heard that before from like OG crypto stuff. So basically what happened is I got on a Twitter space one day last year before this event, and this guy, Devin the Dude, who's a Bored Ape, he was talking about his event that he's having in Brooklyn. And Devin the Dude is someone I'd seen around before. We'd talked before. I told him before I had made the Jordan Belfort song. But by the time we got to this conversation, he pretty much forgot. And so I got on stage, and he was talking about his event in Brooklyn, whatever, and I finally get up. I'm like, yo, Devin, like, this is Dill. We talked before I made the Jordan Belfort song, and, like, I would love to come perform at your event. I'm a music artist. And, like, it didn't even click for him. I'll get to that in a minute. But, like, he ended up being like, okay. So, like, I talked to him, and, like, we kind of set it up. And then it was, like, definitely coming together at the last minute, sort of. So this is probably, like, a couple weeks before the event. And so I'm like, all right, I have a place to perform. I'm just going to book a hotel and send it out there. So I just booked a hotel near Times Square. I sent it out to New York. One of the best decisions I've ever made in NFTs. First of all, there was always satellite events that are free to go to, or something that's free to go to all day. So even if you couldn't go into the conference.
How many people were there, you think?
That's a good question. I think in the thousands. Like,
definitely.
Like I think around maybe I don't even know, but maybe 10,000. But that's
Yeah.
also just a random number, so don't quote me on that. So
There's a lot.
So there's definitely a good amount of people at NFT NYC, and I think it's growing every year. And so anyway, to really finish off that story, like I just sent it out there with no plan. I ended up meeting so many incredible people. I sat down with Devin. Just amazing people in the NFT community. Like you just meet people that are interested in NFTs. So, I mean, I'm not sure if there's anyone that like strikes to me as like, I saw Gary Vee, like I didn't meet him. I saw him, you know, like I don't know if there's anyone that speaks to me as like some huge person that I like met, but like I met, you know, tens or hundreds of people that are just NFT collectors. Some of them ended up buying my NFT. Someone came up to me and shook my hand and said, "Hey man, I've been meaning to buy your VIP NFT, but I wanted to meet you in person." And then he went out and bought a VIP for a half an ETH right after that. So just that, oh yeah, I guess to like simplify it, like just being there, I'm meeting people who buy NFTs. And so just by being there, I met tens or hundreds of people who buy NFTs. Like it probably cost me like a couple grand to go there, but the long-term sales I made from being at NFT NYC are probably over 10 or 20 or plus. It's hard to say, but I can at least say for sure that there were sales directly connected to NFT NYC that paid for the entire expenses and some. So think about that. I got to go there, build my brand. I had to pay everything up front, but just the sales I made from being there ended up being profitable. I did the same thing in Miami, and the same thing happened. So there's
what was in Miami? Art Basel.
Art Basel. Yeah. So I went to Art Basel, which was a lot less last minute. I actually spoke 3 times and had a private yacht party for my collectors there. So like this is the type of stuff I do for my collectors. We had a private yacht party, which was actually
a private yacht party.
This shit is crazy. I didn't pay for it. It was funded by one of my collectors who's starting an NFT hedge fund. And so they're just throwing their Genesis event for their hedge fund. And to them, they were happy to get 2 boats. But then we're on the boat.
So he just tossed you another boat.
Yeah. So we're on the boats with our collectors.
How big is this boat?
These were big, like 100-foot yacht.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Nice yacht.
I think maybe 70, 80.
Damn.
Yeah, they were nice. They were really nice.
Double decker?
Double decker, yeah, really nice, like lounge. And so we're on the boat, sun's coming down, Miami, beautiful weather. And then the guy Blake, who is one of my top collectors, he spent a lot of my NFTs. He paid for the boat, he paid for the event. He comes up and says, "Dude, thank you so much for coming and bringing all your people to this." And I'm like, "Thank me, you made this possible for all my people." But I realized that for him, the value of having like a bunch of my collectors who are also kind of like bigger NFT people is exactly what he wants for building his NFT fund. So I'm realizing that like, and for example, we'll get to this too, the new NFT NYC, I'm super involved in doing an event, a Web3 NFT festival. Yeah. And so again, now for the new NFT NYC, I'm literally headlining a festival that someone else is putting together for me. And I'm just kind of connecting people and bringing in the artists. So like, let me get back to that. So and first NFT NYC was like a last minute thing. I almost didn't go. I ended up performing, having an amazing time, and selling enough NFTs to pay for everything and then some. And probably building my brand so much that makes it way more than the value of the NFTs I sold. So went to Art Basel, Miami. Had a few speaking opportunities, same kind of experience, just even better. Like you can see some of the videos I got from that. They're incredible. Like some of the stuff I have on my Instagram and YouTube. I got to speak at some big events about music NFTs. So then now less than a year later, NFT NYC happens again. This time I was announced on the first official round of speakers for the actual conference, meaning I'm speaking about music NFTs at the actual conference.
I'm saying you're at the forefront of this.
I don't have to worry about getting a ticket anymore. I don't have to worry about not being able to afford a ticket. Because let me tell you, I still can't afford the damn ticket. As much sales as I've done, I mean, look, I've had a good year, but I'm still an independent artist trying to connect the dots. You know, like
you reinvest everything in yourself.
I reinvest. It costs me money to make the sales that I've made, and so I'm still trying to connect the dots. You know, I'm not like a broke, starving artist, but I'm still a young guy trying to connect the dots, and I'm not sitting on millions of dollars of crypto, which and I'm very. This is another culture thing, like especially with radio now. I talk about this all the time. Like some people judge a book by its cover. They hear Crypto Rich album and they just think the wrong things. Because you get some of the like, I don't know, we'll call them like art freaks. Like we get the art freaks who just don't like Crypto Rich because it's talking about crypto and being rich. And they're just more like, I don't want music to be about that. I want it to be about, something that I consider to be valuable culture, right? Let's put it like that. Because, some people will look at my Crypto Rich album and say that it's not culture or not valuable culture, which is, pretty offensive and maybe judgmental, we'll call it in another way.
Look, people,
right?
it's subjective. People are going to like stuff. People are going to not like stuff. I see what you're doing, hacking culture with it. I'm saying keep the vision of also diversifying, which it sounds like with your next album as well, like you're doing that so that you don't just pigeonhole yourself to that, because being in the space and leading the way of the space itself is enough. The art is all bonus after that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, what am I actually like? Is this music I really fuck with and whatever? Which Crypto Rich was, but like in future albums and stuff, like you got to make sure you do that.
I totally hear you. Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of my best things that I do really well is that I can make the music around a particular concept that's still really dope, entertaining music. It's funny. It goes back to my genesis of making the Jordan Belfort song, right? Like, it's like that song was big because the music's pretty good and it's definitely a banger, but like the concept made it big. And so I've seen that when there is a story driving the success of music, it is very much having longevity and having a organic, natural, exponential growth over time, because the story is driving the music rather than some kind of algorithm hype or some kind of TikTok trend. You have a song that's driven by a story that is independent of the song. So Jordan Belfort's song is driven by Wolf of Wall Street movie, which has a life of its own.
Yes.
Now, Crypto Rich is the same thing, because Crypto Rich album is this dope album. The music's dope, but it's also driven by the story of crypto and the success of crypto and my story. And so I think that just like with Wolf of Wall Street, why didn't the song blow up in year one? Why? Because nobody knew the movie. Most people did not see the movie at the end of year one.
I don't know about that. A lot of I saw that shit in theaters. That shit was still
well,
popping.
that's why you probably knew the song before the average.
I didn't. I learned the song like a month. Actually, I can't even remember if it was during senior week. I don't even remember.
But that's nothing, because when you really think of it, like most people didn't know this song until years. Like there's people who just found out about the song in 2020 and 2019 and there's a lot and so, but there's a lot. It's not just some, like, because like we're getting millions of streams per month now. So think about that. Like the first year and a half, like we got 1 million streams. And so it's true that like people in the in crowd kind of knew it early, but when you think about the actual long-term growth of it, I would say that it really had like proliferated the growth with the
over
growth
time
of the music, So I do think crypto will be the same way, where like as more people get familiar with the concepts of crypto and the story of crypto, that gives Crypto Rich album more room to run. And it's like how the Jordan Belfort song pretty much only had as much room to run as like the people knowing the movie. I mean, sure, some people heard the song before they heard the movie. I've heard rare cases of it where someone goes, oh, wow, I had no idea that song was about this movie. But the most common thing is that people liked the song because they knew the movie. And so I think that as time goes on, people will like Crypto Rich because they understand the story of crypto and the album's significance within that story. So I don't know. That's just kind of something I think about, how the music can grow with the story instead of growing with the hype of like, the algorithm or just the song being hyped on.
Did I see that Jordan's getting into NFTs too?
Yeah, man. dude, when I was on his podcast 2 years ago, I said, hey, Jordan, I made this song called Crypto Rich. It's about crypto and NFTs. He said, Bitcoin's a scam.
Really?
Crypto's a scam. Yep. On his podcast. That. Yep. I was trying to show him Crypto Rich. This was like 2019.
It's really a scam, I gotta tell you.
Dude, yeah. So, I mean, it's funny because he kind of like brushed right over it when I was trying to tell him about Crypto Rich and trying to be like, yo, like this is a cool follow up for Jordan Belfort's song. But he was probably more thinking like, crypto, that's a scam, and now he's just making another follow up scam song. But now Jordan Belfort's big into NFTs and into crypto, and also big into ducking my calls.
Oh no!
But no, I've hit him up a few times and tried to be like, "Yo, we need to connect." But seriously, if there's anyone that should own my NFTs, it's the guy that's already integrally connected to my career.
True.
But anyway,
that song made him he was already on the way to pop culture fame, given the nature Leo played him in a hit movie. But that song put a fucking visual on it like crazy. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So, yeah, he's into NFTs and crypto now. And I think somewhere along the way, he will realize, like, who I am and what I've done in the space. But I don't know. I'm one thing that feels nice is I'm getting to this with the Twitter thing, like, I'm settling into this place where it's like, all right, like maybe I don't need like anything. Like maybe I don't need any of this shit. Like maybe I can just like keep making my music at home and like having, doing things my way and sell to my audience. And maybe I don't need, Jordan Belfort to buy my NFT, or I don't need a label to do something for me. Like that's kind of the dream, right? And what's cool about radio is like part of the dream is like I took a trip to LA like a week or two ago, and I was there for a week, and then I was hosting my radio from LA. So it's not just like Music NFT Radio coming to you live from Philly, it's Music NFT Radio coming to you live from wherever I am. So it was pretty cool to be like, hey, we're in LA for the first time. And so like I was telling everyone on radio, like my vision is like, imagine that day when I'm on a beach and I'm just like, hey, it's Music NFT Radio, I'm coming at you from the Bahamas, just hosting on a beach. Like I just think that's cool, and it's completely like an inversion of how the radio works. Because right now there's no radio that's coming at you live from wherever the star like host is or whatever. It's just like, hey, we're coming at you live from Philly or whatever. So I do think that's cool, because also the dynamics of it. Like we had one of our moderators and co-hosts was at Smokers Fest in LA. And
Smokers Fest.
And so we were just thinking about like, he could go around like talking to artists, interviewing artists, like playing them on radio from his phone too, like into the live listeners. And we were just thinking about it, like how this can be like the future of like putting an artist on the radio when you're live in person with them. So it could be like, hey, I'm here with Dill. Like you could literally like, he could walk around with his phone in like the artist area and interview artists one by one on the radio and have like hundreds of people listening, right? So yeah, we're just thinking of like the future of this, and it's something that's so different. So like every day we're just realizing things. And that's the other thing is like,
I'm sorry, real fast. Have you figured out a way to also do high quality audio of yourselves talking?
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's, but not only for me, because other people aren't going to have the setup I have.
I know. So I'm saying like only for the people who are hosting.
Yeah.
But like you have a mic.
Yeah, we can. I'm usually the only one that does. So, because you need a mic setup to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is pretty cool. It gives you really high quality, and we're just kind of building this out of what we think and what works best. But one thing I've realized is like we're on our way to 1,000 hours now of hosting radio, and like it takes a long time to figure out all these stupid little things. And a lot of it is stupid little, I should click that button when I do this, because that's the damn way the app works right now, right? We know that from doing like TikTok or something, where it's like, oh, you got to do this thing, and then next week they update, you got to do something else. Yes. And there's like always like some kind of glitch that you're working around. Like, oh, I know if I do this thing, it's going to glitch, so I have to avoid that thing. So it's all this random stuff for using an app, right? That we're all used to this because we know it from like TikToks and stuff. So there's a ton of stuff on Twitter Spaces where it's just like some random thing about using the app that has now become like my guarded secret.
Have you thought about, or not thought about, have you heard about any rumors about changes to the product with Elon taking over now?
That's a good question. No, but I'm so bullish on Elon and what he does. Like I've been holding Tesla for a while. As soon as he announced the bid on Twitter, like when it was just a random tweet, I instantly bought Twitter stock. Like I bought on that move. Like when he first tweeted that he wanted to buy Twitter, I think a lot of people thought it was a joke, but I just thought it was serious because it was. And I was right. I saw him make this offer on Twitter. I'm like, yo, I agree with him. So I bought a bunch of Twitter stock, and then a few days later, whatever, it came out that was actually going to be real.
What's your opinion on that whole thing?
I think it's amazing. I think Elon Musk is our best chance of having like a free speech social media. I don't think it's going to be like black and white. Obviously, I don't think he's going to come in and then Twitter's completely free speech. But I think that Elon Musk, to me, is the best example of like someone that I think actually is going to try to move it towards free speech. And he also has the right ingredients of like a fuck it attitude. Like
Yes.
he can actually tell anyone in the world to fuck off. He doesn't have to like worry about getting, funding from this next, person who's going to have some certain agenda. Like he actually has
Except
that
the
kind
U.S. government a little bit.
Yeah.
Like when you look at, and this is my theory, but like when you look at the Bitcoin thing in April 2021, when he sent out those tweets, that was someone tapping him on the shoulder, going, "Oh, you still want that funding? You're going to send out this little tweet."
Yeah, I mean,
No
you
doubt about
got the government for sure that you got to worry about. But at the same time, I don't think the government is the government is pro free speech on some level. I think that on a constitutional and law level,
I see what you're saying.
the government is technically pro free speech. Now you could
But
also
the people that occupy it right now seem to be having some trouble with that.
True, but anyway, what it comes down to is I think Elon Musk is the right person to fight the battle, and I do think because of his financial position and his status in a lot of other things, he can actually do what he wants in a way that's more powerful than somebody who is, a hired CEO that is just trying to keep their job as CEO and satisfy the board, right? Elon is more like a independent entrepreneur who just came and bought the whole thing. And sure, he's going to have to satisfy the board and satisfy the government, but at least he won't be as easily swayed by some of the things that I think have created a negative culture in Twitter.
It's a very brave thing he's doing, because the rage of the machine that he is opening himself up to. I mean, he already had it to an extent. Whenever you're the richest guy in the world on paper, he already had it. But Elon didn't control areas of the court of public opinion, the court of speech. And he is now bought into one of those main pillars, which Twitter is absolutely one of them. And we have a weird world where there's a disconnect between elites trying to do what they think is for the common good, some of them are just fucking evil people, versus what human nature shows is the result of things over time. And to make that way more in English, it's like there's a lot of speech that's maybe not on Twitter right now that I don't like at all. Right? Because it's horrible shit. And it's like, yeah, and selfishly, I'd never like to fucking hear that. I'm glad it's not there. The problem is when you look at human nature, we know that it never stops there. Once you give people the power to remove that or say like, oh, you can't talk, they never stop at that person. Then they go to someone else, and lesser and less. It's a slippery slope scenario. You go right down it with Cresco oil, and we have seen that. You see ridiculous shit get banned, or get accounts banned, or get flagged, and it's like it started to feel like I know people overuse it all the time, but it started to feel like some fucking weird futuristic movie where there was like some truth tellers above you telling you what the truth is, and it's like, well, no, that's not what we need. So what's bizarre is that any other time the richest man in the world would buy a pillar of the public square on like that idea on paper, it would horrify me. On the one hand, it does, and I'm going to hold him on. Look, I'm a fan of Elon Musk, right? I am not a fanboy. I appreciate what he's doing. I like him. I will keep him honest to it. Like if he doesn't do things that I don't like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it's Elon, fuck it, we'll go with it. Like there's a lot of fanboys. I don't like that. But even though he is the richest man in the world buying that right now, and that idea horrifies me, I also simultaneously think our world is so fucked up right now that it's one of the best things to happen in the last 5 years.
Agree. Totally agree. And I would say that the only problem with that comparison is that Elon did not buy the right and free town square pole. He bought the goddamn swamp that has already been swamped with so much censorship and stuff. So I think the way I look at it is it's not like he was just buying the free speech thing in town square. It's like he's buying the swamp. So like, in my opinion, someone like him, knowing his goals and energy, at least assuming that, he's honest and has the goals that he states he has, then I think that he could only improve the situation there.
Yeah.
And that's genuinely how I see it. And also I do I do see him as having like the right attitude and the right energy. I mean, he's talked about free speech a lot. He's talked about how that's one of his goals. I think based on what he says and the things that he tweets, he's a supporter of free speech. And also what I like about him that is so apparent in his tweets and also so apparent in the move to purchase Twitter is that he doesn't think inside the box. He doesn't follow the rules. Like, just, I know it's so simple, but just the fact for him to think, I'm going to buy Twitter, like, is a fucking genius level. Like, cause most people just go, oh, Twitter's banning me, you know, screw that, you know, whatever. Trump got banned on Twitter. Okay. But Elon Musk is like, you know, towing the line between getting banned on Twitter with the SEC. I mean, not really banned on Twitter, but we could say that, right?
Well, now he won't.
Right, yeah. And so now the dude just says, I'm going to buy Twitter.
Yeah.
And so I love that outside the box thinking. And I think if you just read through Elon Musk's tweets, you realize that the dude says stuff that comes from genuine creativity. And a lot of like, it's just to me, he proves to me that what he does and the way he acts comes from oftentimes comes from a sense of genuine creativity rather than just, you know, saying what the court of public opinion wants to hear or saying what he thinks people want to hear. You know, he'll tweet some shit that is like, to me, hilarious.
He don't give a fuck.
Ain't nobody wanted to hear that, but damn, he's right. And that's what is convincing to me. When someone's able to say things that's like, nobody wanted to hear that necessarily, but damn, he's right. Or even just like, dude, it cracks me up like, to see this huge billionaire, the richest man on earth. He posts a picture of Bill Gates looking fat as shit because Bill Gates fucking nagged him. And he says, if you want to lose a boner fast, look at this. I'm just like, dude, this guy doesn't give a fuck. And that is who I want running Twitter. So that's the end of that story.
Yeah, and people are showing their ass right now. The people who are hysterically complaining about it are just showing that they want to be able to ban things that they don't like. And again, it never stops at the stuff that I would agree with them. I don't like it either. You can't fucking do that.
Right.
Like when people talk about Steve Bannon or Kathy Griffin, the latter of whom was not banned, those people should have been banned because that wasn't free speech what they did. Like Steve Bannon, I'm not going to repeat what he did, but he called for direct harm and death to public figures. You can't do that. Kathy Griffin did the same thing, holding Trump's head in her hand in a fucking picture. She should have been banned for that. That's not free speech. Unfortunately, if someone, and as fucked up as this is, but if someone says like hateful language to other people, it is free speech. Punish them in the public square by laughing at them and saying, what a fucking dumbass. Let the law of average, like when art is bad, people prove it's bad because they don't go view it, they don't go buy it, they don't go listen to it. Same shit. When speech is bad, people will prove it. You look, if you get 3% of society that wants to run around and say something, fuck it, let them do it. It's 3% of them. You know what I mean? Like they're not as long as you keep it in the open where we can all see it, it's not going to spread. When you make it hide underground and tell them they can't do it, well, now people want to touch. Now people want to see. Now people want to know.
Totally.
You can't have it like that, man.
Also, this just goes to show, I think, why the move was so genius again. Because it's like, for this guy, it's like, he's got so much money, like 50 billion or whatever it is, just to prove all of your hypocrites and just to point out exactly who's a hypocrite. Because in my opinion, Elon Musk has done this the right way in so many ways. So anyone who's pointing at him as something negative, to me, I like to think I'm a reasonable guy. I'm like, if you got a problem with this Elon Musk stuff, I'm looking at you funny because I want to see what is your agenda? Like, what could you possibly have to say that's wrong with wanting there to be more free speech?
I've still been looking for criticism that has real merit since he bought it, and none of it has that I've seen. It's all been politically motivated of people who feel threatened by the fact that suddenly they can't control what's on there and what's not anymore. And it's like, all right, man, you know, and it becomes something that's not a left and right thing. They will be anything. It doesn't matter what direction you're in at some point. Like right now, obviously it skews more right, but like it will be anything that is not according to the exact standards of whatever the public speech is supposed to be. And that is a fucked up world I don't want to live in. So, you know, I'm rooting for him. And again, like I'm going to hold him to the things he says. And that's all we can do. But so far, you know, looking at the earliest days of the reaction to it, I think it's a very necessary reset button, no pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think there needs to be free speech. People need to be able to say what they want, you know. I don't know why people don't want free speech or think things should be controlled like that. I mean, I just think that's super problematic for so many reasons. So that's where I stand on that. And I know as a person, like, my goal, I guess, is to be one of those guys who's like so successful, but I'm still me. Like, I'm still on my Twitter. And one of the most you'll see with, you see it with Elon Musk, you see it with Kanye West, you see it with Donald Trump. These guys who control their own social media and don't have anyone filtering their stuff, they get a very polarizing reaction. And like, I personally think all that, like, not like there's no political affiliation. Like whatever, anything that's like super filtered and like everything they're saying is like super filtered and in line with like some fucking bullet list of like what their public opinions are supposed to be. Like when I see this stuff, I am like so lame.
You can
like,
read right through it too.
I read right through it. But then I also realize that like the average person is like probably gonna like look at that bullet list and be like, oh yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. And meanwhile, I look at a Elon Musk putting a picture of Bill Gates and saying, way to lose a boner fast. I'm like, whatever that guy says, I like that guy. So this is a different way of seeing the world. I don't know. I just like that energy.
And that's you got to remember, people on the other side, like that's of the equation where they're looking at the bullet list of whatever it is you're talking about and they're agreeing with it. That's what they do. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want to fall in the trap of like anything someone says. But like, when he posts a funny picture like that, it's funny. Like, it's a humor in life. Bill Gates is an asshole. I enjoy laughing at that guy. You know, so like, it is what it is. But anyway, man, I gotta piss.
Yeah,
this has been a fun conversation. I'm happy to see you growing in the NFT space with music, because you're leading the way in a lot of ways with the ways to monetize this, and the radio concept is really, really fucking cool. I think that's got a lot of fucking potential. I
mean, really, I think that we can keep growing this radio. It's like, imagine when we hit 1,000 people, 10,000 people. There's no limit. You could have 1 million people listening to Twitter Space, and then it's like now I'm really ahead of the game right now. So it's like, if I keep building this platform, I think the labels will be coming to me and they'll be saying, how do you sell NFTs? How do you make NFTs? How do you do this? So that's kind of what I'm pushing for. Is like, I see the value. Now I can really see clearly the value of the internet and social media. I mean, it's all so related, right? We're in this conversation about Twitter, Elon Musk. What are all these things related to? It's that you have direct to audience power, and someone like Elon Musk has made billions and made a fortune and still goes direct to his audience, and that is so powerful. It's so powerful, in fact, that people try to shut it down, because when you can speak directly to your audience, okay, it takes the middleman out. It takes the middleman out, and there's some people that don't like that kind of power. And they want more control over the way things happen, right? They want to be able to say, hey, you, Elon Musk, you're our CEO. You're only allowed to say this bullet list of things. But I believe in the people who are able to, break past that and say, hey, this is really about communicating with people directly. And as long as they're not hurting anyone, you can post a picture of Bill Gates and say, lose a boner.
That's funny as shit. On that note, thanks for coming in, brother. Great talking
thank you, man. This was great.
All right. Everyone else, I'm like, words are hard right now. Everybody else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to it.